It was very mature, eloquent, responsible. Not a good look for the Rays. Look at ambient. That might be the fastest ever. 8 seconds. 8 seconds. How did you do that?
Bless you.
Oh, man. Tell you, look at this. The medalists decided in the first 40 seconds? Wow. That's outstanding. Well done. Look at everybody. Morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, where are the Rays playing in 5 years? Bigger mess, Rays stadium project or the Jets? I say Jets. Golly. Jets are trying to compete for worst run franchise in the league.
And they're winning.
And that's impressive. I mean, just to be worse run than their neighbors.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you on this Tuesday. Hope your week got off to a great start yesterday. Thanks so much for being with. Wait a minute, it's Wednesday.
David,
unbelievable.
Hang on. I mean, if I could play that again, I would. But today's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
Tuesdays are the days you get up really early and points unknown.
I'm on the road. Right.
Maybe you need to look at the Emmy behind you to remind you that it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. See, I slept in my own bed last night, and I don't know what that's like. I'm very confused, obviously. I just did a hello, Cleveland, and the crowd yelled, "You're in Detroit, blankety blank." It's the second time I've done that this year. And I got the best night's sleep I've had in months. Makes no sense. How about we do that again? Can we play the Open again or no?
Oh, boy, you're putting a lot of pressure on me.
I know. I'm sorry.
Hang on.
Well, I want to get it right.
No?
David, okay. That's fine.
I'm sure it can be
done.
That's
fine. Yeah, no, that's it. Listen, it's my fault. It's my fault. My bad. How about this? This I can do because I do this every day, no matter whether I know what day of the week it is. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. See, I didn't have to hold back. I'm not surrounded by people in a $1,200 a night villa. Because they'll complain, by the way. I mean, Homewood Suites or something like that, Hilton Garden Inn, you might not get a complaint from the person next door. They know that the walls are thin. You're staying in a villa at over $1,000 a night. If you hear a sound, you call the front desk and go, "What the heck's going on here?" So
weeks just flying by.
Right.
Seems like a day went by in a matter of seconds.
Tell you, time is flying here on Miller and Moulton. It is a hump day. The college football playoff committee met last night and everything.
Yes, they did, David.
I stayed up just long enough to see them. Man, oh man. I'll tell you, see, I think they finally got to work last night. Now I'm entertained. I got to be honest. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm entertained. You guys actually had to make some decisions this week. All right. And you did a few political things, which we knew you were going to do.
Missouri.
Still ranked.
Uh-huh.
Unbelievable. Wait, let's jam Illinois back in the rankings. What does that do? That helps maybe a few of the Big Ten teams. So let's just, we're making sure, let's get as many ranked teams and wins as possible for the Big Ten and the SEC. Absolutely. We're making sure we do that. Yep. Got it. By the way, you know how many wins Illinois has over teams with winning records?
Probably 0 or 1.
That would be 0. That would be 0. Correct. So there's a lot of that, by the way. This whole unbalanced scheduling, we're going to have this every year. I mean, think about it. Teams who end up playing softer schedules, what are they going to do? They're going to win.
That's your way to get into the playoff if you're a non-blue blood, if you know what I mean.
Well, there's a few SEC people who are already coming out to say, if the committee does what the committee is toying with doing, which is essentially the SEC wants 5, and they only want the Big Ten to get 3. They want Indiana out when they lose to Ohio State. They want Tennessee in and Indiana out. And their argument is Indiana didn't play anybody. And in fact, most of the Big Ten didn't play anybody, non-conference. And usually Ohio State does, but this year they didn't. But none of us think Ohio State's not a playoff-worthy team. But this was the year, and usually the SEC, very select, if at all, with their non-conference scheduling. This was the year the SEC scheduled some folks. And they scheduled some folks not at home. Georgia and Clemson, granted they played in Atlanta.
Yeah, not at home, Atlanta.
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But Tennessee played NC State. Alabama went to Wisconsin. Texas went to Michigan. I mean, the conference did play some people this year.
LSU and USC.
Right?
I got you.
Yep.
I got you.
And so the SEC is like, what did the Big Ten do? Who did Oregon schedule? Who did Ohio State schedule? Penn State went to Morgantown. I don't want anybody knocking Penn State. All right? Penn State did their job. They went to West Virginia. Okay? Fact that West Virginia's got 5 losses, that's on West Virginia. Besides, Big Noon was there. It was a big deal. Remember McAfee shut down the state? I mean, that was a BFD for West Virginia. And Penn State went in there and throttled them. Now, IU hasn't played anybody. And if you were taking over at Indiana this year, you wouldn't have played anybody either. Because you didn't know what you had. You were an awful team last year, and 24 guys got up and left before they hired the 60-year-old coach who brought in 13 guys from James Madison and were picked second to last in the conference. So who are you going to schedule non-conference? I got a recommendation. How about Charlotte, FIU, and Western Illinois?
Well, not to mention those games are put in. They're not put in 6 weeks before that coach is hired. They were put in long before that. And Indiana got lucky.
Yeah.
They caught lightning in a bottle.
No doubt. They've hit the lottery.
This is a dream season for Indiana. No one expected them to go to the playoff. No one ever expects them to go to the playoff. They schedule those games. Why? Because they're trying to get to a bowl game.
Right.
That's what the Indiana football goal every year is, to make a bowl game, not to make the playoff.
And I don't know if this is going to come up, but the Big Ten plays 9 conference games and the SEC plays 8. And we've wondered for years, when would this hurt the SEC? Because it never has to this point. Now, there's no doubt the SEC's better. We all know the SEC's better. It's deeper. It's better. If we had a football challenge, Mark, the way we have a basketball challenge, the Big Ten ACC basketball challenge that we used to have, okay? And people at both conferences thought it was cool. And they tried to match up preseason 1 against 1, 2 against 2. They tried to have the matchups be pretty even. And I got to admit, Mark, I always enjoyed it. Early season, quality games, both sides seem to care. Cool. If we did a Big Ten SEC challenge, don't you think the SEC would win?
Yes, every year, David. And it would be in the middle to the bottom. The tops are similar. But it's always been the middle part of the conference that has separated the two. The meat and potatoes, if you will, of the conference that you've got to get through week in and week out. But that's why the knock of the Big Ten's always been, you only play 8 games. We play 9.
And is that going to matter this year at all? Is that going to help Indiana? What are they, 12-point underdog?
13.5 now, David. It's gone from 11.5 to 13.5.
Money pouring in on the Buckeyes.
Yep.
Who lost the starting offensive lineman in practice yesterday to a torn Achilles.
Which they're already without their left tackle, correct?
Correct. So there we have it. The committee having to pick and choose. First off, what do you think about them putting Tennessee on the outs? If there's room for 4 in the SEC, the committee has said, well, those 4 are going to be Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, and Georgia.
They really have put, to me, David, they've put themselves in a spot if Texas loses. What do they do with Texas if they haven't dropped anybody that significantly all year? As if they're saying Texas is in.
Well, that's not true, Mark. They just dropped BYU 8 spots. Now, I know. We could argue whether or not the committee thinks BYU is somebody. I think they've just set Texas up to be knocked out. Because strategically, who did they put as the last team in for the SEC?
Tennessee. Georgia.
Correct. What has Georgia done this year, Mark? What are their 2 big wins?
They pummeled Texas.
And Tennessee.
They beat Tennessee.
So if Georgia's the doorstop, if you will, how does Texas make the argument for still being in? They lost by 15 at home to Georgia, and the game wasn't that close either. I'm telling you, Mark, winner of Texas A&M is in. Losers out. And that's if A&M can win at Auburn this Saturday night. Did you see Mike Elko's presser yesterday? Oops. Want to get away? He was asked about not overlooking Auburn because you're playing Texas in a week and a half. And he said, our focus is completely on Texas. I mean Auburn.
Well, at least he was honest, David.
I think it was a Freudian slip, but bummer. Anyway. So don't you think that the committee just said to Texas, you better beat A&M, man? Because at 10-2 and Georgia's 10-2, guess what? You out. But they've also said to Ole Miss, which I found interesting, you win out, you're in. You're in. And I don't know how Tennessee gets in at this point, unless somebody ahead of them loses.
I've said it all along. It's how badly Indiana loses. That's what this is all going to boil down to. Great show lined up for you today on this hump day, David. Hump day.
Hump day? It's a Wednesday?
Seth Everett, Bud Elliott to talk college football, and Chris Perkins to talk the Dolphins on Miller and Moulton. We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
It's time for one of the biggest diamond events of the year, right in your backyard. Join Jason and Todd at the Diamond District this weekend, Friday, November 22nd through Sunday the 24th, featuring GIA certified diamonds, diamond stud earrings, hoops, huggies, bracelets, diamond necklaces, anniversary bands, gemstone jewelry, and Rolex watches. Plus, Barry Verracchio, founder of Verracchio, one of America's top bridal designers, will join the Diamond District with his entire collection. This is Miller and Moulton.
I'm glad that you text Pat. I was worried when I put the show on and he wasn't on at 3 o'clock.
Apparently he was doing something with the Hall of Fame, and he was on at 4.
Chimko, that's a great question right there. What happens if Penn State loses to Minnesota?
Oh, they're out. And
Indiana gets blown out.
I don't know if they have to keep one of them.
I'd like Penn State to win out just because they're going to host an SEC team. And we need that. We need a December game in Happy Valley with Penn State playing Georgia, Ole Miss, whomever.
I will say for Kansas State to not be ranked and for Missouri and Illinois to be ranked is a joke. They have the same record, 7-3. Kansas State has wins over 2 ranked teams, currently ranked. Missouri and Illinois have no wins against teams that are currently ranked. Come on.
And Irish football, A&M has 2 losses, first off.
Right.
And Bud he is prognosticating to the end of the season, not at this current point in time. He's saying that A&M is going to beat Texas.
Right. And we can discuss this, but think about it big picture. College football can't. If you make the Big Ten and the SEC championship game, but you lose it, you're out of the playoff. Teams aren't going to want to play in the championship game. They'll be like, no, we'll take our bid. I mean, Lane Kiffin said teams would, if you're going to knock us out of the playoff because we lose the conference championship game, which, by the way, is an extra game. All right, then we don't want to play in the game. Yeah, I know we can get a first-round bye and all that by winning, but we'd rather just take our bid and bypass the conference title game. Okay, so, and I agree with Bud. I think if you make the SEC and the Big Ten championship game, you're guaranteed a spot in the playoff. It's just a matter of what your seeding is going to be. So, yes, he has A&M beating Texas, but then losing to Alabama. That's why he gives Alabama the really good seed and A&M and at large. Irish football, listen, you're biased. We know that. Look at that Notre Dame schedule as objectively as you can. So far.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. All right. I've got my feet on the floor. I know what day it is, what time it is. I think I can continue. It's a hump day edition.
Yeah!
Of Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com. Miller_Moulton on X. Seth Everett, Bud Elliott, Chris Perkins to join us. So
I've got an idea, David.
Okay.
I've got an idea for a poll question. You ready?
Uh-oh.
What day is it today? Tuesday or Wednesday?
If you want to have fun at my expense, go for it. You got to put something in parenthesis, though. Tuesday. David thinks it's Tuesday.
Just having a little fun.
Wednesday. So, yep, the world tour got to me this morning. It did. And it's weird, too, because I got the best night's sleep I have had in a very long time. Hey, I have a question. Can an NFL team's situation be so bad that if you've never been a GM or a head coach before and they offered you the job, you'd go, no, I'm good? Because I'm wondering if the Jets are starting to enter that territory. It's not just because they fired their general manager, Joe Douglas, yesterday. First off, A, we all knew it was coming. B, he deserved to be fired. He had the job since June of 2019. This is his 6th season. Mark, how many winning seasons have the Jets had in the 6 years that Joe Douglas was GM?
Zip, zilch, nada.
Correct. Okay. He inherited a coach, then got to hire his own. All right. He inherited Sam Darnold. All right. Said, no, getting rid of him. And he picked Zach Wilson, 2nd overall pick of the draft. That's a fireable offense on its own. It really is. Doesn't matter almost what you do with the rest of the franchise. When you have the second overall pick of the draft and you screw that up that badly, that costs your franchise a minimum of 3 years. Also, he needed a tackle, desperately needed a tackle. In a tackle-rich draft, he picked the one guy out of the 4 who couldn't play. Meanwhile, the Bucs 3 picks later took Tristan Wirfs. Okay? So his first 2 first-round picks as general manager of the Jets were actually Mekhi Becton and Zach Wilson. You don't think
and
that's...
David's not saying anything that we didn't know heading into the draft. He was the one with upside, but there was potential. It was a reach. It was a project type of tackle because he hadn't played enough games to find out whether or not he was going to be a good NFL tackle.
Also, he was fat. He was 350, 360. All right, you were going to have to work with him. Wirfs was a polished product. The Bucs were desperate to get their hands on Wirfs. It was well known. Anyway, so I have no problem with Joe Douglas getting fired. But Mark, apparently Woody Johnson is, well, he's like a fantasy owner. All right. Word's coming out that after week 4, when that home loss to Denver, that's when this season started to derail for the Jets. Remember, they'd won 2 in a row. They came home. The Broncos were 1-2, and the Broncos were still struggling mightily offensively. Bo Nix was not comfortable yet. And the Jets got beat at home by Denver in an ugly, messy game. It was like 10-9 or something like that. Anyway, after the game, Woody Johnson has Douglas and the coaching staff in the room the next day. The word now is that he said, I want to bench Aaron Rodgers. And apparently the room was like, are you kidding? So, and a week later, Woody Johnson on his own, without even telling the general manager, fires Robert Saleh. Which right there, you know, if you're Joe Douglas, it's over. I mean, your gig's over. Unless all of a sudden we start winning a bunch of games. I mean, you know, you might as well start getting the boxes now, making the plans. You're out of here. So he fires the coach without telling anybody. The week after, he wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers for Tyrod Taylor. He said that. He goes, no, let's play Tyrod. So
that ambassador gig going to come back for him?
Well, it is supposedly, but he didn't get confirmed last time till July. You know, the ambassadors are going to play second fiddle to, you know, the secretaries, if you will, Commerce, Treasury, Defense, all that.
Right.
I mean, they're going to get
the cabinets first, then they're going to deal with the ambassadors. I get it.
Right.
And I know we don't do politics on this show,
No.
but it's relevant for this conversation.
Right.
It is.
Yes, and that's why we mentioned it. The timeline is important. So if Woody Johnson's going to go back to being our ambassador to the UK, which apparently he loved, absolutely loved. It's another reason why he fired Saleh. He had a lot of his friends from overseas at the game, and the Jets lost, and he came back and he fired them. So the problem is that Woody Johnson is going to be around for the hiring of the coach and the general manager, not his son or brother, I guess it's Chris. I think it's a brother, younger brother. Who, by the way, reportedly, okay, one of the conversations that took place, Woody Johnson, when he was yelling at Saleh, said, and I didn't hire you, my brother did.
He's lining up to be the worst owner in sports right now, David.
And let me tell you,
that's hard to do. That's a tough list.
It is. It is. Because there are owners right now who are running their franchises in the NFL right into the ground. But I'm serious. If you're a highly sought-after person, you've never been a head coach before, you're an assistant GM. We've said it. Everyone has said it for a long time. How many of these jobs, Mark, are there?
Oh, there's 32, David.
Right. That's a pretty small pool. You spend 10, 15, 20 years working your way up through the ranks, the whole deal, and the Jets offer you their general manager's job. And you know it's a mess. Can you say no?
Would you say no to the GM job before you'd say no to the coaching job? I mean, what job is harder to get back, if you know what I'm saying? Like, if you go in as a first-time coach and you get gassed as a coordinator, are you ever getting a head coaching job again? If you go in as a first-time GM and get gassed, are you ever getting GM? Which one's tougher to get back the second time?
I think it's the GM job. And here's why I might say yes if I'm the coach, because I'll know who the GM is. If I trust the GM, then I might be willing to take this gig.
But make no mistake, somebody with coaching experience is not getting the Jets job. That's a coordinator job. It's a first-time GM job because nobody with experience is going to take that job.
Well, let's look at the Jets' history. I mean, you have to go back, I think, to Parcells. The last time they hired a head coach who had previously been a head coach. And I'm not talking about somebody who finished out a season as an interim. I mean, when Parcells left, now granted, the Johnsons didn't own the Jets yet. I think Leon Hess still owned it. Okay. But they hired Al Groh, longtime assistant. He did it for a year before leaving the coach's alma mater, Virginia. They hired Herm Edwards. He had never been a head coach before. They hired Eric Mangini, never been a head coach before. Rex Ryan, never been a head coach before. All right. Then I forget who the guy was after Rex. But he was a longtime assistant, had never. No, it wasn't. Because then it was Bowles, and then it was Gase. Oh, Gase. Technically Gase, because he had just been fired by the Dolphins. And we all wondered, well, how in the world could they hire Gase? So technically they've hired one guy who had previously been a head coach when they hired Adam Gase. That's it. Usually the Jets give first-time GMs, first-time head coaches. Jets are cheap when it comes to head coaches and GMs. They are. Would you take the gig?
No. I'd go back and be a coordinator where I worked the year before I took a job with that organization. No way.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever, are steadily adding affiliates, yet we only have a few sponsors. And if that doesn't change, we can't continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or contact Mark on X at that Mark Miller or me at the David Moulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now. The world famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world famous cigar bar.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
Is snoring bothering your spouse? Would you like to sleep in the same bed again? Do you know that snoring can affect your sleep cycle and cause lower testosterone levels? At Sleep Treatment Direct, we have easy solutions. We have a simple laser procedure that can improve snoring in 10 minutes. If you would like to get back in the same bed or are looking for a natural way to treat low testosterone, give us a call at 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Or go to sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Irish football, I'm sure you know this. There's no way for Colorado to host a playoff game. The second round of the playoffs is neutral site. The only teams that are hosting are the 5, 6, 7, and 8 seeds.
And if you win the Big 12,
You will be one of those.
You'll likely be either the 4 or you'll be the 12. Irish football, don't laugh. You want to play BYU because I think if you play Arizona State, it hurts your chances of jumping Boise. Like right now, BYU's 14, you're 16. You want to play BYU, beat them, and then, but Arizona State's 21. Even if Arizona State beats BYU this week, they're going to be ranked behind you. To jump Boise State, you want to play the highest ranked team you can play. I believe. So I think if you want to jump Boise, play the highest ranked team you can play. If you don't care and you want to be the 12, then play Arizona State. Johnny, haven't you had trouble with Twitch before? No, Ambient, I'm telling you, I love this college football season. You know, Arizona State out of nowhere from the depths of where they were, Indiana, Army. I love it. And to me, why have a 12 or 14 team playoff if you're not going to make room for these stories?
No, Irish football, a Big 12 title does not lock them in the 4. Look at how this is. Look where they have the teams ranked.
It's the 4 highest ranked conference champions. Boise State.
Boise to 12. I mean, look where they're at.
Boise State's only loss is at the gun at Oregon.
I mean, the fact that BYU's behind SMU is a joke, but it's relevant.
It is a joke, considering they beat them.
Right, it's a joke. How do you have Ole Miss ahead of Georgia and then put SMU ahead of BYU? It doesn't make any sense, David.
Right. Army has a much better shot against Notre Dame than Navy, in my opinion, because Army's better at the line of scrimmage. Army's going to have to do to Notre Dame what Northern Illinois did.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour. Mark, it's a hump day.
Yeah.
don't know if you knew that or not. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X.
Had you ever done that before?
About a month ago, I got the days wrong.
Did you?
Yeah. Same deal, I think.
I wasn't paying attention then.
Yeah, I think it was the same deal. Okay, it was a Wednesday, and I thought it was a Tuesday. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tuesdays are rough for me. Okay, I could see why I would forget. It's like a lost day. I do the show in a bit of a, adrenaline, the very little sleep, get through it, and then I'm a zombie the rest of Tuesday. I sleep on at least one of the flights, and I mean I'm out. I like sometimes, asleep. I always fall asleep before the plane takes off.
How has the adjustment been because of the arm surgery? You have moved from an all-time aisle seat.
Yes.
You and I are an aisle guys. We've always been sit on the aisle guys.
Yep.
You've had to, because of the surgery and your predicament with your arm, move to the window.
Yes.
How has the move been? And because sleeping's better on the window, I will tell you that right now. At least I believe that it is. Have you learned to be a better sleeper on the plane now that you're on a window seat?
Mark, I could sleep on the floor of the plane. So is it a little bit better? Maybe, but I don't like the window. I don't. I still, and it does kind of bump up against the arm a little bit, but it's better than a person bumping up against the arm because, I can control it. It's me. But yeah. And also I have to move to only one window. I have to move to the F seat. It has to be the window to my right. So yes, I've had to rearrange all the seating arrangements on my flights. Yes. And some of them I haven't been able to pull off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. First world problems, I know. So anyway, Tuesday I'm a zombie. I really am. And that's how, to me, it's like yesterday didn't happen. But obviously it did because it's a hump day. And time for
The Starting Five. 5 big stories you need to know. Here is The Starting Five.
We'll start close to home. In the state of Florida, Pinellas County commissioners voted to delay their bond vote 4 weeks to December 17th. The Rays knew they were going to do it. They sent them a letter beforehand basically saying, we're not going to be able to play in the new stadium in 2028, and that's if this deal happens at all. There was a lot of dirty laundry that got aired very nicely, but a lot of dirty laundry that got aired at the county commissioners meeting yesterday afternoon because the Rays went public in the Tampa Times. And so the commissioners decided they were going to go public what had previously been private conversations. So there you have it. Those that are still for the bond measure are still for it, and they're pleading with the two newcomers to please don't kill this deal. 4 more weeks of lobbying. We'll see if Pinellas County approves the bonds to go forward with the Rays Stadium project. Meanwhile, nothing about the $56 million to clean up the Trop now. And the Rays are hinting that the whole deal may be dead. All righty then. So it's going to be a fun 4 weeks. I mean, if you vote for the bonds, don't you have to vote to clean up the Trop?
Yes. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what you're voting on with the bonds.
So, anyway. By the way, the Rays traded Jose Siri to the Mets yesterday for a minor league reliever. Take note of anybody who either is making a few bucks or is about to make a few bucks in a year. Because the Rays are already looking at their revenues going, yeah, we're in deep you-know-what. They just had to rework their regional TV deal. I don't think they're getting the same amount of money they were. Also, the Rays disclosed yesterday they've already put $50 million of their own money into this new stadium project since it was approved. Now, I have no idea how that could be. I mean, we haven't even put a shovel in the ground yet. How do you blow through $50 million? But that's what they claim. Turns out, Mark, of the 13 people who were made a qualifying offer in Major League Baseball, you know, the 1 year, $21 million deal, take it or leave it, 12 of the 13 said, no, we're good. But Reds righty Nick Martinez took the money. So he's going to stay in Cincy for 1 year at $21 million. So there. College football playoff selection committee got real last night. Stacking the SEC teams, putting a group of 5 team with a first-round bye. Top 5 remain the same: Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana. But remember, just because you're ranked 1 through 5 doesn't mean that's how you'll be seeded. Think about it. 4 of the 5 are Big Ten teams. So Oregon gets the 1 seed, but then Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana, they get the 5, 6, and 7 seeds. Texas would be the 2. For what it's worth, Miami, ranked 8th, is the 3rd highest ranked conference champion. So they'd be the 3 seed. And the Broncos of Boise State, ranked 12th, ahead of BYU at 14 and Colorado at 16. So the Mountain West champion, Boise State, as of now, would be the 4 seed. And the Big 12 champion, which right now they have BYU, the higher ranked team, BYU would get the 12. You throw in Notre Dame, ranked 6th, they would get the final home first-round playoff game. So if this were to hold, which it will not, for the simple reason that Indiana's playing Ohio State this week, but if by an act of Congress this held, all the northern teams would host first-round playoff games. Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, and Notre Dame. Oh, yeah, they stacked the SEC teams. Bama gets the 7 seed, or the 7th, ranked 7th, excuse me. Ole Miss ranked 9th. Georgia ranked 10th. Tennessee ranked 11th. That means if the SEC only gets 4 bids, there's no room for Tennessee. Bama would go to Notre Dame. Ole Miss would play Indiana. Georgia would go to Penn State. SMU is 13. BYU's 14. Mark, those 2 played. Who won?
BYU.
Wow.
It's a joke. That's a joke. And the fact that Boise's really ahead of BYU, I think, is also a joke. Boise they don't have a quality win on their schedule.
But they have a quality loss.
So what?
Okay, I'm just saying. I mean, Ohio State went to Oregon, lost by 1. Boise went to Oregon, lost by 3.
Yeah, Ohio State beat Penn State.
Yes, they did.
Who did Boise beat?
Well, who did Indiana beat?
Washington State? That's the credit we give them?
Who was Indiana beaten? Who's Penn State beaten? Who's Notre Dame beaten? Who's Texas beaten? I mean, it's rampant, Mark. The schedules this year have turned out, I mean, you know, think about Notre Dame. Think about who they scheduled. They may get a 5 and 6 USC team when they play them. They're going to get a 2-win Florida State team.
But they did beat A&M.
Yes, they did.
I mean, that's all they win.
Hell, it might be the SEC champion. And they beat them in College Station. And that is a quality win. For what it's worth, A&M's 15th. Colorado 16, Army 19th, Tulane 20th. Army Tulane, the AAC title game. College football last night, if you needed a distraction, there was Maction. Akron handed Kent State their 11th loss of the season, 38-17.
That's a cover.
Yes, it was. Central Michigan snapped their 5-game skid, beating Western 16-14. And Miami of Ohio moves into first place all by themselves, about half a game ahead of 2 others with the 20-9 win over Northern Illinois. NFL news, Jets fire general manager Joe Douglas. Last week, they were writing stories saying he was already looking for real estate back in Baltimore. He's headed back to the Ravens. Woody Johnson said you can get a 6-week head start. Woody Johnson reportedly wanted Aaron Rodgers benched after week 4. Can't get him out of the country as the ambassador to the UK fast enough if you're the Jets.
And you want the appointment to be for life.
Yep.
It won't be, but you'd like it to be.
Yep. NBA, worth your time. Celtics led by 17 at the half. Cavs cut it to 5 going to the 4th. But Boston held off the previously 15-0 Cavs, 120-117. Jason Tatum with 33. So
good fourth quarter, decent game throughout, but a good fourth quarter, good second half. Boston was making their threes, David. When they make their threes, they're a very tough team to beat.
When they make their threes, they're the best team in the league.
Yeah.
They just are. Cavs covered, though. We did say, get a 15-0 team in 5.5? I don't know. Lakers have won 6 in a row. You remember the draft? Tennessee had this really good player, Dalton Connect, maybe the best shooter in the draft. And he somehow fell to 17th. And the Lakers are like, seriously? We'll take him. Yeah, he had 9 threes last night. 37 points. He's a rookie. Lakers beat Utah by 6. San Antonio without Wemby beat OKC by 6. Luka came back, scored 26. Mavs won by 41 over the Pelicans. Brooklyn had Charlotte. Denver got the better of Memphis. Your buddy Matt Ishbia, the Michigan State guy, Phoenix Suns owner, yeah, he said, Durant's not going anywhere. Yeah, he may only have a year left on his contract, but we didn't offer an extension this offseason because we couldn't. We're going to offer him 2 for 120 during the offseason. He loves it here. We love him being here. He's going to retire his son. That's right, 2 for $120. WNBA, another college coach leaves during the season to go to the W. Lynn Roberts of Utah left to go become the head coach of the LA Sparks. College hoops last night, game of the night at Marquette. They beat Purdue 76-58. Florida beat FAMU by 24. Number 1, Kansas. Number 2, UConn. Number 9, Kentucky. Number 18, Cincinnati, all winners. UCF and Florida State also winners. Women's hoops, UCF beat North Florida by 29. Bethune a winner. North Alabama a loser. Stetson over FAU. Miami by 28 over FIU. Hockey, the Bruins fired Jim Montgomery. A year and change ago, they had the best regular season in NHL history. He was coach of the year.
What have you done for me lately?
Well, they're 8-9-3 to start this year, so they fired him.
8-9-3. Done.
Apparently, they're like last in offense and fourth to last in defense, though. Also, he was in the final year of his contract, and people were wondering after the first 2 years, how come you didn't give him an extension? He kind of done a good job. Anyway, Braden Point, 2 goals, including the game winner. Lightning over the Pens, 3-2 in overtime. Winnipeg.
Down 2-0 going to the third in that game. That was a good comeback for the Lightning.
Yes, it was. Penguins are in trouble. I know they've signed a couple of their older guys to long-term deals, and I know they want to retire there, but you may have to sit down and talk about trading them because they're not going to be good.
No, not for 4 or 5 years, David. You're right. I mean, they've got Sid and they got
Malkin and Letang.
But they're both old. Letang's old.
And they're productive players and teams who trade for them. Okay, but they got nothing in the pipeline. Winnipeg, they came to Florida last week, got beat by both the Panthers and the Lightning. Sure enough, they hosted Florida last night. We knew they were going to whoop them. They did 6-3. Rangers are 7-1 on the road. Maybe they should stay there. 4-3 over Vancouver. JT Miller took a leave of absence for the Canucks. Connor McDavid, 2 goals and assists. Edmonton over Ottawa, 5-2. Minnesota Wild are 12-3-3. They doubled up St. Louis 4-2. Anaheim beat Chicago 3-2. Calgary 2-1 in a shootout over the Islanders. And that, Mark, was your starting 5. 5 big stories you need to know here on Miller and Moulton.
In case you're new to the show, that's how we used to end that. And we didn't put a liner in for the end of the starting five, so David does the liner with the starting five. Little added bonus for you listening wherever you may be.
That's because the liner would cost us money, and we're being cheap right now. Okay, so if we have more stuff to send our voice guy, then we'll have a closing liner. But right now we have nothing to send him. So once I remember what day it is, I close out the starting five here on Miller and Moulton.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
DC, I don't think it matters, unfortunately, for Notre Dame whether A&M wins or not. If they win out, they're in. They'll host a playoff game. If they lose, they're out.
Jay, are you still in the Twitch chat room by chance?
Actually, EB, I've suffered a setback in the last 3 days. Something's going on in the middle of my arm. I've lost flexibility and I've added pain. So I don't know what's going on. Odrat, that's a good way of saying it, yeah. Odrat.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Hour 2 of Miller and Moulton on this hump day. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Seth Everett 1 hour from now. Bud Elliott 90 minutes. Chris Perkins to talk the Dolphins in 2 hours' time. So do you hold to that 14-point number with Indiana? If they lose by 14 or less, do you think they're in?
Yes. I think if they cover, they're in.
And what's the spread now?
13.5.
The last team in right now is Georgia as an at-large. They're 11th. Oh, excuse me. They're the 11th seed. They're
Right.
ranked 10th. Indiana is ranked 5th. Tennessee is ranked 11th. So in theory, they have to drop a minimum of 6 spots. BYU just got dropped 8. Granted, they lost to a 3-6 Kansas team. Now, I will say that now 4-6 Kansas team is looking like the team that we thought was going to contend for the Big 12 title. They got their quarterback healthy, and the last 2 weeks, they've looked like an upper echelon Big 12 team. And they face Colorado this week, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So we'll see if they can keep on keeping on. They need to win out to go to a bowl. They don't go to many bowls in Kansas, so it's actually a thing. But your gut feeling, Indiana loses to Ohio State by 14. How many spots do you think the committee drops them?
All right. It does depend on how they lose by 14. They're getting goat rodeoed the whole game. They score a couple of fourth quarter touchdowns to come close. Then I think they drop significantly. They play a tight game that we go to the fourth quarter and it's still a game and they lose by 14. I think they drop 1 spot ahead of Tennessee.
So if it's 17-10 Buckeyes at the half and it's, 24-10 or 31-17 going to the fourth, and that's your final score. It's a semi-competitive game. But we knew for at least the last hour who was going to win. You think they make sure they keep them a spot ahead of Tennessee?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
By the way, I'm sorry, but in the very unlikely chance that Indiana beats Ohio State, you worried at all about Ohio State's spot? I mean, we're talking about when Texas loses to A&M that they're going to get dropped out.
No, because Ohio State's beaten Penn State, and they had a close game against Oregon. Ohio State's in even if they lose.
Okay. Hey,
whereas Penn State, if they lose, all bets are off if they lose to Minnesota.
Oh, no. I think teams that if they lose between now and the end of November, they're out. I think Texas is on that list. I really do. I think Penn State's on that list. I think Notre Dame's on that list. And the obvious Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia. They lose, remember, end of November is not the conference championship game. I mean, if Alabama loses to either of their two remaining opponents, they should be dropped out. I mean, Ole Miss is at Florida and Mississippi State. And I know it's the Egg Bowl. This is a bad Mississippi State team. And Georgia's got, they got the rivalry game against Tech. Can't overlook it. Georgia Tech's got a pulse. But, I mean, we're talking about whether you should be in the playoff or not. You lose that game, you're out.
You're out.
So, Mark, I think Texas, by the way the committee lined up the SEC teams yesterday, if Texas loses to A&M, even though it's on the road against the 15th ranked team in the country, how are you going to put Texas's 10-2 ahead of Georgia's 10-2? And they've just used Georgia as the last team in when Georgia went to Austin to beat you by 15. So I think if Texas loses, they're out. If Penn State loses, they're out. If Notre Dame loses, if Bama loses, if Ole Miss loses, if Georgia loses. I think there's 6 teams that if they lose, they're out. And that's when you start wondering, can the Big 12 and the ACC get 2? And if any of those teams lose, by the way, how beneficial is that to Indiana? Could be huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are, the problems that I have with, you're advancing it, which I love, David, but there are a few problems I have with this. They put Boise at 12. Boise's not beating anybody. They shouldn't be ahead of BYU, in my opinion. BYU should be ahead of SMU. BYU beat SMU. It's really simple.
Right.
And the fact that they jammed Missouri in at 23 is one of the more laughable appointments of a team that I've ever seen.
Now, not to say that this was predictable, but Mark, what radio show late last week said one of the big 3 things you need to look for by this committee, and they'll do it first because they'll let us know 25 through 21 right away, is whether or not they keep Missouri, who, listen, they lost at number 21 South Carolina in a really good game. They lost on damn near the final play of the game. Okay, but usually when you lose, they drop you. And they didn't drop Missouri. And it just so happens that a few of the SEC teams that are in the top 10, who have they beaten?
Missouri.
And makes the conference look better, it's another ranked team. Just like, oh, by the way, they jammed Illinois back into the rankings at 25. Mark, how many wins does Illinois have over teams with a winning record?
Don't think they have any, David.
They don't, Mark. Correct.
But haven't they lost to Penn State and Ohio State?
Well, and they got goat rodeoed by Oregon.
Right.
Meanwhile, Kansas State has the same record as Illinois, and they have beaten not one but two teams that are currently ranked. Is Kansas State ranked?
No.
Because that would be ranking a Big 12 team instead of a Big 10 team. Not that the committee is, doing anything nefarious here. No. They're just sitting
I
around.
apologize. Illinois did not play Ohio State, but they did play Oregon and they did play Penn State. And that's who they're taking care of is Penn State.
Now, we have a few Colorado fans. A, because they just happen to be fans of Colorado sports teams. And B, there are a few Deion fans. There are Deion detractors. There are Deion fans. Mark, I don't know if you agree with me, but my feeling is if you're a Colorado fan, you want to play the best team that you can play in the conference title game.
You want BYU to win, and you want to play BYU. And that should leapfrog you over Boise to get that final bye and put you at the 4 spot as one of the 4 conference champions to get a bye.
Boise right now is 12. In theory, they're not going to lose. Also, very much in theory, they're going to have one of the finalists for the Heisman. Hey, that helps. It does. At this point, it's PR. It's marketing. It's lobbying. That's what this is. This is public opinion. Colorado's got Heisman finalists. Guess what Boise has? A Heisman finalist. Hell, they may have the Heisman winner for all we know. This will be a fascinating vote, by the way, for the Heisman.
It shouldn't be. Travis Hunter should win the Heisman, hands down. This should be done, over with. Give him the award. But I think there's a Colorado resentment out there that will hurt him.
Also, there could be split vote just amongst the Colorado players. How many votes is Shedeur going to take away? In which some voters will rank the quarterback ahead of Travis Hunter. I don't think they should. If you're voting for the best player in college football this year, it's tough to make the case it's not Travis Hunter. Workload alone, never mind at a high level. But anyway, back to the polls. Boise's 12, BYU's 14, Colorado's 16. Arizona State in it at what, 21?
Exactly right, David.
So if Arizona State beats BYU this week, yeah, okay, they'll jump up to probably right on the heels of Colorado. But if you're trying to jump Boise and be regarded as no worse than the 4th best conference champion and get the 4 seed in a first round bye, don't you want to play BYU? Who, by beating Arizona State, Mark, maybe the committee will realize, we probably should put them ahead of SMU. And if nothing else, move them up a spot. And then if you beat a top 12 or top 15 team in the country in the conference final, will that be enough to propel you ahead of Boise? So there you go. And, oh, by the way, if you're Colorado and the Big 12, you're saying to the committee, could you guys rank K-State, please? Please? That would really help.
See, they jammed UNLV in there at 24.
Right. Who does that help?
Boise.
Sure does. So Boise, Big 10, SEC, helped by the bottom of the poll. Who's hurt by the bottom of the poll? Big 12. Which is funny because when we used to do this in the computers, they used to love the Big 12.
Big 12 could do no wrong in the computers, David.
No.
It's really taken a human committee to start knocking the Big 12. But, of course, it's without Texas and Oklahoma. And if you were to add them back in, all of these schools would go up 4 spots in the rankings, David.
Miller and Moulton. Seth Everett in 45 minutes. Bud Elliott, a little more than an hour. Chris Perkins to start the bonus hour. That's how we roll. Hump Day edition, Miller and Moulton. Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
This is Miller and Moulton.
I think Sanders should be a Heisman finalist. I was, Michael, growing up. Oh.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes after the hour. Miller and Moulton, MillerandMoulton.com. MillerandMoulton.com is where you go if you miss any part of the show and you want to catch it. Where you download our interviews and our segments, MillerandMoulton.com. Follow us on X at Miller_Moulton. So after yesterday, yesterday went better than it could have. We thought there was a chance yesterday Pinellas County commissioners were going to vote the bond down.
And they delayed the vote for a month.
Right.
Basically because they knew they didn't. If they took it to a vote, it was going down.
Right. And they want to try to answer any questions and lobby the two newcomers. The vote was supposed to take place in late October, before Election Day. It was going to pass 5-3. The funding was going to be secure. Then the hurricane happened. Meeting got canceled. Election Day happened. 2 new members to the commission. They're anti the project. So now we have issues. We got the damage to the trop, and now there might be 5 no votes. And the problem is there can't even be 4. 4-4, it goes down. So there's no room for error here. By the way, I'm curious. This is an ethical question. If you were one of the new commissioners, this thing was passed. This thing was going to be passed before you took over. And literally, it was a natural disaster. That is the reason that this, and even though you're against it, this was going to be passed. You were not campaigning on voting no on this because you weren't going to get to vote on this. Would you rubber stamp it, or would you go, no, man, I'm against this?
Well, I'd rubber stamp it, but it's obvious that they don't want to. They are making the first vote that they have as a county commissioner the most emphatic and biggest vote of their political careers. And by all accounts, it's what the people want in that county. This wouldn't have passed if gone to a public vote.
That's what Steve Carney told us last week. This was on the ballot. He doesn't think it gets 50.1.
The Rays sent a letter, to the commission saying that if it's not passed today, they're out, basically, that they would lose too much money and it wouldn't get done by the start of the 2028 season, and playing in 2029 as the first season in the new venue is not an option because they would lose too much money.
The letter was not well received, and I don't think the letter from a public relations standpoint is going to turn out to be a good move for the Rays. Because I think the letter, on top of talking to the Tampa Bay Times, first off, I don't think the letter was necessary. You do one or the other, but you don't need to do both, in my opinion. I have to admit to some of the commissioners, now listen, I've never had any money, so I don't understand bonds and banking and a 1-month delay. But there was a commissioner who seemed very reasonable yesterday, and who's in favor of the project for whatever that's worth. And he said, we just need another month. Stuff has happened. Okay? Things have changed. We just need another month. There's a lot of other things we now have to consider, including the $56 million to repair the trop. Okay? We need a little more time. But he said, you can't tell me that a 1-month delay in a vote is going to torpedo the project. And I have to admit, Mark, that seems reasonable because it'll end up being a 2-month delay. The vote was supposed to take place in late October. If the vote now is December 17th, let's just say it passes. I mean, for those out there that worked on projects, financing and what have you, I mean, a 7-week delay, I mean, that doesn't kill a project, does it? I mean, I could understand maybe it would cost you can't be ready for opening day 2028. Okay, I guess. Maybe instead of the shovels going in the ground in March of 25, they go into the ground, I don't know, May, June. Maybe you move in mid-season 2028.
I don't understand how this vote could delay shovels in the ground that are going in March, David, if they get it done in December. That's the first thing that someone would have to explain to me. Moving this back 1 month, if we pass this, we can't start at the same time. We weren't starting the day after the vote. We weren't starting a month after the vote. We were starting several months after the vote. And we can't still do that? That would be my first question.
The guy who I thought was reasonable, whose clips I saw, said in private conversations in this letter, and he said this out loud at the commissioners' meeting yesterday. He said, I think the Rays are looking for a way out. I do. I think they're looking for a way out.
It certainly appears that way because these commissioners wanted some communication with the Rays. They didn't get that. They got a letter. The Rays instead do what? Go to the newspaper to talk, not to the county commissioners, not privately or publicly. The Rays look bad here, David.
I think they do. I mean, yesterday turned out to be a win for the Pinellas County Commissioners. I mean, think about that going into yesterday. How is yesterday going to be a win for the Pinellas County Commissioners? And the Rays helped turn it into a win. Yeah, you mishandled this, Stu. You really did. Because the other thing, dude, I mean, it's a community that's going to be shelling out money for you. Don't you have to be nicer? I mean, don't you? Not only that, think about if you take the Pinellas County Commissioners at their word. I mean, come on, man. I mean, look at what the Steinbrenner family just did for you. They said now it could be because you're paying them $15 million and that's why they're doing it. But do you know what they said publicly? Hey, man, we're a part of the community. We just got hit by a major hurricane. Whatever we need to do, we'll do. I mean, don't you, if you're the Rays, have to say something similar? Like, listen, we're not happy about it. This could cause problems down the road, but we understand if you need an extra 30 days, do what you got to do. Hope you pass it.
Well, in the Rays, by going to Steinbrenner Field, did tick off some of the Pinellas County's commissioners who wanted them to play in Clearwater.
I got to say, though, I'll support the Rays on this one.
David, I'm not saying that you don't have to support the Rays. I'm just saying that there's already some commissioners that were upset by your move to Hillsborough County for the next year. So to do everything without communicating at all with the county commissioners seems like a bad move to me.
Right, because I think he needs to explain to them, listen, we can't go to Clearwater. The facility's not good enough. It's just not. Of the minor league facilities in our area, that's the best one. That's the closest one to being, quote, major league ready. They've pumped money into it recently. They're pumping money into it as we speak. Never mind, they got the Yankees to agree to move their Florida State League team out of the building for a year. We don't know if the other organizations in the area would agree to do that. So to review, the Steinbrenner family is looking good, and Pinellas County Commissioners got a reprieve yesterday, and the Rays are looking bad.
Think you hit the nail on the head, David. Miller and Moulton. Seth Everett in 30 minutes. Thanks for listening.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
The world-famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world-famous cigar bar.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. Sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Hockey teams always played in Tampa, though, Mac. Now that I will agree with you on, because that is a big time lightning town. Congratulations, Adam.
Hey. Wow. Your wife is a rock star. Is it a Levelin? Congratulations, Adam. Way to go, Adam's wife.
Exactly. Adam didn't do a damn thing.
No, he's watched Miller and Moulton twice. Might need to change that to great. Just saying, don't be, don't hold back the compliments.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. It's a hump day.
Yes, it is, David. It's a hump day.
Yep. I thought it was Tuesday at the beginning of the show, which was funny because I sent out Mark sent out the tweet in the morning saying, hey, this is our show. Please listen. And I retweeted, and I know it's reposted because it's X now. And I usually add a quote to it. And I said, we're getting over the hump together, blah, blah, blah. And then just a few minutes later, I go, hey, it's a Tuesday morning, Miller and Moulton. Mark's looking at me like, what is your problem? It's Wednesday. Sorry. I'll try to do better next time.
It's quite all right.
Hey, we have a very loyal and growing Twitch audience. Twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. I would say one of our most loyal, Adam, right?
Not to knock anybody else in the Twitch chat room, but Adam flew down to our fantasy football summit.
Right. Right. And not only that, from where he was, it wasn't a direct flight. He had a flight at like Fort Lauderdale, rent a car, drive across the alley. A night in the hotel, 2 nights in a hotel room. First a night in Fort Lauderdale, then a night in Southwest Florida. I mean, he spent some real coin. Not only that, we charged him for the summit.
We charge everybody for the summit. It's not free for anyone.
But you know me, if I had known Adam was taking all that time and effort, you know me, I would have let him in for free.
I know you would have. That's why I don't put you in charge of any of those things.
Right. That's why you handle the business. So
we've got you in the perfect spot, billing.
Right.
You're perfect for that.
I am.
You keep a very good checkbook, David.
To the penny, Mark. To the me and your wife. You're surrounded by perfect checkbooks. So anyway, back to Adam. So Adam became a dad this morning. And
the first Twitch baby
that we know of. So the last 2 days, Adam has been in the hospital with his wife while the show was going on and has been watching the show. And yes, that's right. His wife was in labor that long. Apparently 47 hours. Damn.
So congratulations to Adam's wife.
Right.
And a little bit of congratulations to Adam.
Right. We gave Adam some advice 2 days ago. Don't say push. Okay? Just say, you're doing great, babe. Love
47
ya.
hours, maybe he should have said push. Hell, they could have used the Philadelphia Eagles in there for all I know.
You saying there was some need for a Bush push?
47 hours seems like
Yeah.
they could have used something.
Yeah, my wife was in labor a little over 24. I thought that was a lot. I know she thought it was a lot. So, but anyway, congratulations to Adam's wife. And Adam, if I were you, I'd stop watching the show. I really would. Okay, unless she's sleeping. All right, I'd stop watching.
21,000's the text line if you want to chime in on the show. If you have not texted the show in a while, we ask you to text the keyword Miller, because I did get a text from someone who caught the podcast and sent a text in the middle of the day. It said, wondering if my previous text went to Michigan. Well, they did, because it's the first one I've gotten from you in a long time, who was supporting our theory last week of keeping Billy Napier. And he said, even before the win, I was with you. Don't want to see the recruiting class get blown up, etc.
Speaking of which, the news every day is getting better for the Florida Gators football program on the recruiting trail. And if this comes across as patting ourselves on the back a little bit, well, we've taken a lot of heat for wanting to go the distance with Billy Napier. That, listen, you've done this 3-4 year thing with a bunch of coaches and it hasn't worked. You're going to have to go all in with one of them. You're pretty far down the road with this one. Why don't you just see this sucker out? And we hoped that, quite frankly, Billy Napier would turn into your Frank Beamer. I mean, it took 6 years for Beamer to break through at Virginia Tech, but they stayed patient with him. We all know the Coach K stories and the Wooden stories and what have you, but that's different sports, different times. And sure enough, we said, listen, the key here is DJ Lagway. And if you fire Napier, you lose him. Well, apparently, Lagway is their best recruiter, because they got a bunch of players who are coming to visit them, who went to the LSU game last week, and you got offensive players that are now decommitting from the Georgias of the world, from the Alabamas of the world, from the Ohio States of the world to go to Florida. That hasn't happened in a while, a long while. And the guys on offense are like, yeah, we want to play with Lagway. Okay. He can't leave for at least 2 more years. Sounds good to us.
Whereas in Tallahassee, every other minute, it seems like another recruit gets up and leaves.
Think about and listen, it's not like Miller and Moulton are, really following recruiting closely. I mean, there was a time when we're past that. We just are. It takes a lot of, that's why we have Bud Elliott on, quite frankly. One of the reasons. And others. But, I mean, Mark, just on paper, how bad of a look is this? So there's a 4-star high school quarterback from the Jacksonville area. And Jacksonville's a divided area. It's mostly divided Gators and Dogs, but Florida State's got a real following in North Florida, even in Northeast Florida. I mean, I-10's 150 miles. Straight connection, Jacksonville to Tallahassee. It takes like 30, 40 minutes longer to get to Doak than it does the Swamp. I mean, it takes about $1.45, maybe a few minutes longer to get to the Swamp from Jacksonville. It takes about 2.5.
Probably add 15 minutes for you normally driving, because David has a lead foot. Just letting you know.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 hours for you and maybe 2:45 to get to Tallahassee. That's true, Mark. That's a valid point. Okay, there are
especially when you're in a Cadillac rental.
Right. There are cops right now going, it better take longer than that, dude. So, anyway, 4-star quarterback prospect from Jacksonville has been committed to Florida State for a while. Well, Mark, what does Florida State desperately need?
A quarterback.
And in theory, you're their guy. And you decommit from Florida State. Well, okay. All right. It's a mess. And, you want to go someplace more stable. Got it. You choose the Gators? Haven't heard about this DJ Lagway guy? I mean, dude, you ain't playing for 2 years. You go to Florida State, you might play in August. I mean, that in and of itself.
Miami, you might play earlier. I mean,
right.
There's
right. I mean, that in and of itself to me, boy, it's a bad look for Florida State. But B, they got a good vibe going on in Gainesville.
And as we brought up several times on this show, what is it? 80% of their NIL money is going to freshmen and sophomores?
Uh-huh. And they're all Napier's guys. So that's why those that have commented, wow, they're really playing hard for him. Yeah, the guts of his team's been recruited by him. They're his guys.
And the guts of his team's getting paid by him, essentially.
Right. So, no, I'm not saying they're also going to follow up beating LSU by beating Ole Miss. I mean, look at the point spread alone. They were 3.5-point dog against LSU. What are they, 10 against Ole Miss? I mean, it's a noticeable difference. I mean, they're stepping up in class this week than where they were last week. And remember, LSU did have the ball for 41.5 minutes last week. I mean, the Gators made the big plays. LSU didn't make any. But, Gators finally stole one. It's been a while. They've deserved some bounces and some things to go their way. They had that happen last week. Good for them. Good for Billy. Really good for Scott Strickland. But anyway. But, man, are things going well right now. There's been a hell of a November for Napier. He's got kids decommitting from other schools and committing to him like one a day. And Strickland goes public, Mark, and says he's our guy for next year. Deal with it.
When the month started, it looked like he might be moving on from him.
Hell, when October started, this was, for most of you, this was unforeseeable, and you wanted no part of it. And as a few people are joking now, in the last 2 weeks, has Sunbelt Billy become SEC Billy?
Let's pump the brakes a little bit. It is still a team that's trying to get to 6 wins.
Yep. True. But just saying, people who have wanted him fired, people who threw eggs at his house, who soaped his car just 3 weeks ago, they're now willing to change, his nickname.
They're taking the for sale signs out of his front yard instead of putting them in his front yard. I get it.
Correct. Now, they're not necessarily hanging the Gators flag, okay, but they're at least taking the for sale signs out. Mark, this reminds me of the old Mike Shula story. When we knew he was in trouble, when all of a sudden the construction people stopped working on his house 3 weeks before the end of the season. It's like, Somebody in the know at Alabama said, yeah, that's not a good sign. No, it's not. I mean, could you imagine being the wife? Your husband's at work and all of a sudden the construction people are tearing it down and leaving and the job's not done. Honey, why are the construction people leaving? I don't know. Well, you need to find out. Well, I think I know why. I'll get back to you.
What's that buyout in my contract?
So
almost done home for sale.
I mean, now, hell, maybe Mr. and Mrs. Napier, they're going to add on to their place. I mean, they're feeling so good.
I wouldn't recommend that.
That might be
I wouldn't even remodel. I'd leave it the way it is.
I would too.
just fly below the radar, get through another year. In fact, just make sure you don't do anything stupid like lose to Florida State.
Well, there's no doubt. You need to get to 6. Absolutely. Can't lose to the worst Florida State team since, well, we don't know when.
Of our lifetime.
Pre-Bowden, put it that way.
And when did he get there?
Mid-70s, I believe.
Right. Ouch.
Yes. But, and as Mark points out, the only reason he's still there is the buyout. I think it's one of 2 reasons. I think, though, what's happening this month, Mark, was the other. It was why, by the way, Mark, and I don't mean Mark Miller, I mean the Mark in the Twitch chat room. Okay. One of the big reasons why Miller and Moulton were like, listen, he's put 3.5 years or 3 years into this. This is when the recruiting is going to start to pay the dividends. Don't blow it up now. And the trail was going well at the beginning of the month. Now it's going unbelievably well. Miller and Moulton.
Imagine it's just one Saturday, how it changes everything.
Yep.
Because that LSU game changed everything on the recruiting trail for the Florida Gators. Their NIL is somewhat in line. They're paying the right players.
Had a bunch of recruits at the game. Yep.
And the atmosphere was fantastic. It was the swamp again, really for the first time since the Miami game when you got blown out.
And you had a bunch of recruits at that game, and Miami started recruiting them as they were walking off the field.
But Elliott finds calling him bowl game Billy. I think that's a good start.
Okay.
Sunbelt Billy to bowl game Billy.
I like it. And it still has to earn SEC Billy.
You're damn right he does.
All right, I like that. That's very fair. Very fair. Well played. Well played. So Seth Everett coming up in a matter of minutes. Bud Elliott in 45 minutes. We'll talk about what the Gators have done on the recruiting trail. We'll also get into Ohio State, Indiana. Bud's thoughts on the committee, what they did, but also we'll get into the game. How much of a puncher's chance do the Hoosiers have as nearly 2 touchdown underdogs? Miller and Moulton. Chris Perkins at the top of the Diamond District bonus hour. But next is Seth Everett here on Miller and Moulton.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller & Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller & Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
It's time for one of the biggest diamond events of the year, right in your backyard. Join Jason and Todd at the Diamond District this weekend, Friday, November 22nd through Sunday the 24th, featuring GIA certified diamonds, diamond stud earrings, hoops, huggies, bracelets, diamond necklaces, anniversary bands, gemstone jewelry, and Rolex watches. Plus, Barry Verragio, founder of Verragio, one of America's top bridal designers, will join the Diamond District with his entire collection.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Hi, gents.
Hey, man.
Hey, I have a proposal, and I wanted to do it on the Twitch part. Do you think Bud Elliott is flexible?
Busy, but yes.
You think he could do 8 and I could do 8:30 going forward?
I'll have to ask him.
Ask him. It's worth asking because normally Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays I have to take my kids to school.
Gotcha.
And I won't be back by 8, like never. Okay. Today I didn't because a stupid story. I was supposed to be in Syracuse. I was supposed to be halfway to Syracuse already. I was going to leave at 6 to be there by 11, and the Hall of Justice is not finished. So no. So that's why, and that's the only reason why I'm here. I was going to do it from Scranton, Pennsylvania today, which was no problem, but normally I'll have my kids with me.
Okay. Yeah.
You're just
we'll see. Well, here, don't laugh, and I'm not doing this. We can not do next week for this reason. We're having to crunch 5 days into 3 anyway. Okay, so I could use the opening to actually jam in a Thursday guest. So if you want, you're off the hook for next week. Okay. And then I'll work on Bud for December.
That's fine for December. Yeah. That's up to you guys. I have no classes. All my classes were canceled, and I'm only doing Sports with Friends next week.
Okay.
Oh, but can I tease something I got for Hall of Justice? I recorded it yesterday.
Well, sure.
Holy podcast, Batman.
Burt Ward.
You have
Burt Ward.
Seriously?
Burt Ward. I spent 90 minutes with him. It's going to be a double episode, December 5th and 12th. He was amazing.
Awesome.
Oh, my God. He was so nice. He's a little crazy. He has 55 dogs in his house. And he's like, you have any other questions about Gentle Giants? And I said, yeah. Do you ever close the door? Yeah, Burt Ward. It was awesome. Comic book royalty.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, congrats.
Yeah, that was very cool. Yeah, so we're not publishing next week because it comes out on Thursday, but December 5th and 12th, it's Burt Ward.
Oh, look at you, way ahead of the game.
I know, right? I can rest easy.
Just need to get through today, right?
Just survive today. Dan Horde, you guys know him?
No.
He's a Cincinnati Bearcats and Cincinnati Bengals, but he's a Syracuse guy and he's being honored on campus tonight. So I'm going to try to see him and try to bang out next week's Sports with Friends.
Look at you. Ever the opportunist.
That's right. I'm going to end class early. I'm going to schlep all the way up there and go, I got to go do a podcast. Sorry, podcasters. I'm out of here.
Irish football wants to know any truth to the rumor that Adam loved the ladies a bit.
Yes. It's all in there. It's all in there.
That's awesome.
There's a rumor. How much time?
Seconds.
No. Yes, it's very true.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Third hour of Miller and Moulton, final hour of the show in Lake City and surrounding areas, Charlotte County and surrounding areas, halfway home in the 239 and the 904, because the Diamond District bonus hour awaits 1 hour from now there. Bud Elliott, a little over a half an hour. Chris Perkins, 1 hour from now. But Seth Everett, kind enough to join us at this day and time every week. You know, Seth, two great, very different podcasts, Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice. And let me tell you about the future Hall of Justice guest that he has.
Oh, yeah.
How did you pull off getting Batman?
Holy story, Batman. How did we do it? Well, when the 400th was coming up, I was throwing darts. I was leaning on every PR person I knew and every celebrity I knew and somebody, and we wound up having a great conversation with Diedrich Bader. But Burt Ward eventually got back to me. It wasn't for the 400th, and it turns out he knew what the podcast was and wanted to do it. And he was game. So I set it up, and we set up this Zoom call. And everybody who I told Burt Ward was coming on the Hall of Justice, they said, "Oh my God, he can talk." And it's one of those guests where all I have to do is hit start, and he'll let it run.
He's the Tim Brando of comics.
Right. That was exactly the reference I was going to use. and I couldn't stop him. So it's like 90 minutes, and so here I'll tell you the bit. I said, "Hey, can we slice this in two and make 2 episodes out of this? Because I would rather 2 40-minute episodes than an hour and a half." And he said, "Sure." And he said, "Kind of like the Batman TV show." And so I got him to say, "I'll come back, same bat time, same bat channel."
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun.
So
I gotta ask, how cool was it, Seth? You've been doing this a long time. You now are established in that world pretty well with the current comic Marvel universe. He's of the former, you will. For Burt Ward to know who your podcaster was about, that had to be a little bit of a thrill, wasn't it?
It was cool. It just, I know who he was traveling with, and he Batman, not him, not Adam. They already have stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but Batman got a star on the Walk of Fame, and he was invited to speak. And so there were a bunch of people, and that's where he was approached about the podcast. So then he looked it up, and he found the podcast, and he said, he said he would do it. Apparently, one of my guys was working the Hollywood Walk of Fame and helping me out. And it was very cool. What I love to hear, first of all, I love when guys like that are just great people. Like, he's such a nice human being and a great guy. But the other thing is just, I always like to say, could 10-year-old me just know that in 40 years you would talk to Robin? Like, that's Robin. That's crazy. I don't know about you guys. I mean, you guys are a little older than me. I watched the reruns of that show.
As did I. Loved them.
The reruns. Like, I wasn't alive in the 60s, but the reruns were always on in our house. And then when the Blu-ray came out, I bought it. I was like, I have to have this. This is part of Americana, and it's entirely rewatchable. Last night, I put on because of one of the streaming services the TV movie that they did. They did in 1966. They did a movie where they had the Joker and Riddler and Catwoman, and I watched that. It's so dated, but it's fantastic.
Well, that's because the Devils didn't play last night. I mean, you had to do
Correct.
something.
Syracuse basketball, nothing. Nope. Yeah.
Seth Everett, Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. You we know you're paying attention. In fact, you had Mark Topkin on.
Oh, yeah.
Curious if you have talked to him since you recorded the podcast. I know you're planning on bringing him back probably before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But this Rays Pinellas County dispute, county commissioners yesterday saying we need another 4 weeks before we vote on the bond, and the Rays all but saying that's going to kill the deal.
Yep. I changed my entire stance last week when we were all collaborating here. We said that the Steinbrenner field, theory was the best of the bad ideas. I firmly disagree now. Relocate for temporarily. Relocate to Nashville, Charlotte, Portland, Oakland, anywhere. I don't care where you play. Why?
Why?
Because you need to start to find out what that franchise's options are. And if it's going to kill another deal, this has been 18 years of trying to get a stadium, at least that I can remember. They punt enough. And if I'm Stu Sternberg, and I'm not, but if I'm Stu Sternberg, that's the final straw. Considering the hardship of playing in an outdoor stadium in Pinellas County during the year, and considering the burden that was going to be on the players, if the deal is going to die, then get out of town, and get out of town now, because you can set something up for this season, save this season. I do not want to see the Tampa Bay Rays players on the field in 98-degree heat, humidity, and a rainstorm, sitting around for an hour and losing all their pitching because of the bad weather in Southwest Florida. You have to get out now. Like yesterday, they should have done it as soon as that new stadium deal. The whole plan was contingent on there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there isn't.
What do you mean? All they did was put off the bond vote for a month.
But they said it'll kill the deal.
Yeah, but Seth,
the Rays said it'll kill the deal. I don't. I think that's the Rays trying to strong arm Pinellas County. I mean, I don't know how a month kills the deal, Seth. I really don't.
I read that the deal is as good as life support right now because of the delay, and there's no confidence that they're going to vote for it.
No. That's a different issue. Okay. That's a different issue that the two new commissioners make. If one of the two votes against it, it'll kill the deal. That's a different issue than this vote was supposed to take place at the end of October. We all know what took place. So, Seth, it's
November 20th. They need a plan for 2025.
No, they have a plan. They're playing at Steinbrenner Field.
It's a terrible plan.
Well, Seth, there's not a good option. They're all terrible options.
The new the loyalty to the original mantra when this whole mishigash started was make sure they stay in the county.
Well, right? No, they didn't stay in the county because they're moving counties.
Stay in the market.
But that is pissed off. But Seth, you have to understand that's pissed off county commissioners in Pinellas County because they're not playing in Clearwater where they could have played. They chose Steinbrenner Field, taking money to another county. That's just the fact of the matter.
The word, the market,
the region, right? Manfred said stay in the region.
My point is that if they are not confident that they can get a new stadium, they have to look for their best interests.
But can't they do that after December 17th? Also, and listen, Miller and Moulton are not banking people, but we're having trouble understanding how the vote was originally supposed to take place in late October. Let's just say the vote goes their way on December 17th. That's 7 weeks, 8 weeks. Really? That kills the whole deal from a banking standpoint?
Yeah, I would need to understand why.
Yeah, I would too. We all would. I mean,
I read that, and I saw the Rays official who came out and said this is over. Like this is going to kill the deal. I just took it at its face value.
Well, I think it's what Mark said. Mark thinks that they tried to strong arm the commission yesterday in you better vote for this now or this thing's going to die.
What a mess!
It is a mess.
God, that franchise.
And someone could end up with a great franchise.
Just give them 1 day.
Well, and not only that, Seth. I mean, listen, I don't think they trade Jose Siri to the Mets for a AAA reliever. Okay, if everything that's going down with the regional sports network and the Hurricane and them having to play in an 11,000 seat stadium didn't go down because series somebody that beginning this year, they're going to have to probably double his salary from $2 to $4 million, and the Rays are counting pennies.
Stop. Siri, stop.
Waiting for that.
Sorry, low-hanging fruit.
And now he's going to be in the New York market. You're going to be doing that all the damn time. Oh,
well, look, we talked about payroll disparity and how it's going to be multiplied by like 9. Once you have teams that are getting revenue from regional sports networks and versus teams that aren't. It used to be that some teams made more money than others, and that was the payroll disparity. Now you're going to see it's going to be teams are not going to be able to compete, and you're going to start a 162 game season not giving your players a chance. And the whole thing just leaves such a bad taste in my mouth.
And we know they never do a cap. So this is going to, how long do you think this disparity will last in baseball, if not for at least a decade, Seth?
Well, what Manfred says is once he can set up his baseball network plan where where he puts, 20 out of 30 teams on a streaming service and gets the revenue from it. But, if you went up to the guys from Peacock today, there's this big story about NBC Universal getting rid of all their cable networks, including USA Network and, all these other networks. Because they're going to put a lot of their sports content on Peacock, which is hemorrhaging money. Max is hemorrhaging money. Paramount is for sale and hemorrhaging money. So why would the MLB streaming service work? Why would suddenly that become profitable? I just think if you ask Manfred, what he says is, I need to set up this regional thing because then you could sell it. I don't see how you do that. Especially with the big market teams saying, screw you, and we're gonna keep our regional networks the way they have.
Sports with Friends Hall of Justice, 30 seconds, go.
Dave Sims, the new radio play-by-play voice of the Yankees, longtime friend. He was instrumental in setting up my life. He helped me very much helped me get the Major League Baseball job to leave Seattle. Ironically, we talk about that extensively. He was vital in that, and I'm thrilled for him. And then Hall of Justice is The Penguin, a show that's very good, but The Penguin is the weakest link.
Okay. All right. That's a great get, Dave Sims, by the way. Very timely. He's a great guy.
He's a great guy.
And the new voice of the Yankees.
Yes, it'll be a 2-2. He's been practicing.
Seth Everett. Hey now.
Yeah.
It's Dave Sims. Seth Everett, Sports with Friends Hall of Justice. Follow him on X at Seth_Everett. Seth, if we don't talk, have a great Thanksgiving holiday. Hopefully we'll talk next week here on Miller and Moulton.
Sounds good.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller & Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller & Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
It's time for one of the biggest diamond events of the year, right in your backyard. Join Jason and Todd at the Diamond District this weekend, Friday, November 22nd through Sunday the 24th, featuring GIA certified diamonds, diamond stud earrings, hoops, huggies, bracelets, diamond necklaces, anniversary bands, gemstone jewelry, and Rolex watches. Plus, Barry Verragio, founder of Verragio, one of America's top bridal designers, will join the Diamond District with his entire collection. This is Miller and Moulton.
Sonny, that's really funny. That's solid. Quite a few of them that have it down, Sonny. Sonny on YouTube asked if you're going to do the Trump dance during the starting five now. See, that's funny. Funny's funny. Time for this. Let's see. I have Netflix, Amazon Prime, ESPN Plus, Hulu, Disney Plus. I think that's it.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Bud Elliott in a little more than 15 minutes. Lots to talk about in college football, not just the playoff selection committee and their rankings, but also get into some of the games like Ohio State, Indiana. Did you hear what Joey Galloway said last night? By the way, Indiana should not play their quarterback against Ohio State.
Huh?
Yeah, I didn't understand his reasoning, but he thinks that the only way that Indiana won't make the playoff is basically if they have what happened to Florida State happen to them. And so they might as well just, go lose the game, but don't play your quarterback. And as long as you got your quarterback healthy, they'll be in. And I don't think he was joking.
Well, we've advocated for players to skip seasons before because of their draft position.
So, but Bud will get into the game and how much of a shot that, he gives the now 13.5-point underdog Hoosiers. I will say they caught a break. Ohio State lost their starting center yesterday in practice towards Achilles.
So that's 2 of their 5 starting linemen that are out because they've already lost their left tackle.
Right. Now they've been making do without him, but yes. And it was not their deepest unit at the start of the year. They thought they had like 6. So, and Indiana's front is a lot better than you would think. A couple of transfers from James Madison, but also they're very active. They very rarely do they stay in one place and just take on the guy in front of them. They're stunting and slanting constantly. In theory, you could gash them. They take themselves out of position, but they have caused a lot more havoc than they've allowed.
It's where Ohio State, though, in theory, David, should be able to powerfully blow them off the ball, even with backups in positions.
I guess. I've only seen them in person once, and Michigan couldn't do it. Now, how much better is Ohio State's offensive line than Michigan's? That was the one unit that was absolutely ravaged by graduation at Michigan was their offensive line. And yes, their quarterback room isn't that good, but as
the receiver room's not good.
No, but I don't know how great their receiver room was last year to begin with. I
understand, but you're going to defend Michigan differently than you're going to defend Ohio State.
Absolutely.
You can bring a safety down. You don't have to worry. You're going to man cover the wide receivers. You're going to bring a safety down, and you're going to make sure that Michigan doesn't beat you running the football. Ohio State, you want to play that way with Ohio State and dare one of the guys that's going to play on Sunday on the outside to go single coverage? Good luck with that.
Right. You're going to play 7 in the box, and you could play more if needed against Michigan. You're never going to put more than 6 in the box against Ohio State unless you're just guessing about the play call. That's very valid. So, we'll see if it's a factor, though. Indiana's actually got a couple of defensive tackles. Got an edge rusher even. I'm curious. That's the part of the game that interests me the most. Because obviously, their corners can't cover Ohio State's receivers. Hell, how many corners can? So, I'll be curious. I think Indiana's got a real problem at the line of scrimmage on offense. Now, they did pretty well against Michigan for a long stretch. And then Michigan decided this, and they went after the quarterback. And at that moment, Indiana was in trouble.
Well, I thought Michigan showed a good formula of how to defend Indiana in the second half. And Ohio State has the athletes that Michigan does for the most part to do similar things defensively.
Totally. And if you're Indiana, I think you have to expect it. You have to. Now, Wink Martindale brought guys. Michigan was bringing 5 and 6 a lot. They decided they were cutting the head off the snake. They were going after the quarterback. Indiana, until the final drive to, put it away there, and by put it away, it just brought them back up by 2 scores. But it was like mid-4th quarter, and Indiana had 8 yards of offense in the entire second half. Michigan had just owned them for an hour. And I think all of us watching the game were like, well, Ohio State's going to pay attention to this film. Because here's the other thing. Ohio State, I mean, they call themselves DBU. Whether they are or not, they call themselves DBU. You don't think Ohio State thinks their corners can cover the Indiana receivers?
I really hope, for everyone's sake watching the game that's not a Buckeye fan, that Indiana scores first. And with 6.
Right. I hear you. You know, also Indiana on the road. I mean, how many quality teams have they played outside of Bloomington this year? I mean, we're debating how many quality teams they've played. Never mind outside of Bloomington. So, you know, we saw it earlier in the year, and I'm not saying that they're equals, but, you know, Navy was having a really nice season. Cute story, the whole deal. They got in the big game against Notre Dame, you know, 75,000 people and what have you. They choked.
They threw up all over themselves, turned it over, did things they hadn't done all year long.
Right.
They turned it over twice all year, turned it over 6 times in that game.
You know, they couldn't handle the moment. I mean, it'll be very interesting. Their coach, very confident, very loose. All right. Will Indiana play that way in Columbus on Saturday? Or are we watching the first hour of the game going, oh, they're tight. Oh, they're tight. You know, you hope that they're loose. You hope that Rourke is just slinging it all over the lot. For better or for worse, let's go. This is what got us here. Let's go.
You empty the playbook. I expect Indiana, if there's a trick play in their repertoire, I expect it to come out on Saturday. So we'll see. But I worry that Indiana's going to get their doors blown off. I've thought that for a while.
Really?
And I'm pissed I didn't bet it at 11.5.
What's the number you got in your head? Well, if you think they're going to get the doors blown off, then 13.5 won't matter. I mean, I'm not trying to talk you into making the bet, but if you think about
42-14, 42-21.
Oh, okay. Well, then if you think that's going to happen, then, you know, get it while it's still under 14.
I did.
Okay.
During the show this morning.
Good for you.
But that will be one of my 5 plays. I'll be taking Ohio State on Friday.
Oh, you already got one in the hopper on Wednesday, do you?
Yep.
I don't know. If you're rooting for Indiana, you might feel good. Last time Miller had some in the hopper before Friday.
Failed miserably.
Miserably.
I'd love to be wrong. Want to see this be a game. I just don't think it's going to be.
Speaking of which, the game is at noon. Man, all of a sudden, people are getting all bent out of shape about their games being played early. First off, I thought a lot of schools were upset that their games were being played at night. Now they're upset their games are being played at noon or 11 a.m. in the certain time zones.
David, I will honestly say it is hard for the fan base for a noon game. If you're outside of Columbus by 90 minutes, you're out the door by 6 o'clock in the morning. It's a tough day. I'm just saying it makes for a hard day to get there. Your tailgating's almost irrelevant. You're doing more of it after the game than you are before the game. It's just tough. That's all. I get it.
Mark?
Shut up and cash the checks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
The fan base
the money back.
Checks, though.
Give the money back. Fox is running the conference. $370 million a year. They got CBS and NBC to come on board for another 6 and change. You're getting $1 billion a year in TV revenue. Give it back or shut up and cash the checks. But Elliott's next.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
The world-famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination, with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world-famous cigar bar. Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Is snoring bothering your spouse? Would you like to sleep in the same bed again? Do you know that snoring can affect your sleep cycle and cause lower testosterone levels? At Sleep Treatment Direct, we have easy solutions. We have a simple laser procedure that can improve snoring in 10 minutes. If you would like to get back in the same bed or are looking for a natural way to treat low testosterone, give us a call at 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Or go to sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Morning, bud.
Morning, guys.
How are you?
Doing well. What y'all up to?
Oh, a little of this, a little of that.
No doubt.
Getting ready for a couple of days off next week, which is strange.
There you go.
Hey, man.
What's going on?
Question.
What you
In
got?
December, if we had to ask you this, which we're not yet, how problematic is 8 a.m.? Be honest.
Not really any more problematic than now.
So,
I mean,
if for 3-4 weeks in December,
yeah,
if we had to move you up 35 minutes, that would be okay.
I think that's fine. Yeah,
You sure?
That's not a day I take the boys to school anyway. So
Okay.
that's fine by me.
All right. We'll get back to you.
All right. It actually might be even better in some cases. So,
all right. You want to? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do next week at this time, the day before Thanksgiving.
Cool.
Unless you want it earlier. And then in December we'll move it to 8.
That's fine by me. Yeah.
Okay.
Holy crap! My anniversary's this weekend.
Pretty sure Mark's wife is not watching on Twitch.
No.
Yeah.
Just dawned on me.
That's right, because the college football weeks are off a week.
Right.
That's right.
See, he got married the Saturday after Thanksgiving 12 years ago.
Yes.
There you go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes until the top of the hour. That's when Chris Perkins will join us during the Diamond District bonus hour to talk Dolphins. Hey, they have a winning streak. I can't remember the last time we talked to Chris Perkins when the Dolphins had a winning streak. But Elliott joins us. College Football Playoff Selection Committee got down to business last night. They said a few things. Some made sense. Some are very confusing. We'll also get into Ohio State, Indiana, and a couple of other games. Bud, how are you?
Doing well, guys. Excited to talk some college football.
All right. Where do you want to start? Top 5 stayed the same. They ranked the SEC teams for us in order. Who's in, who's out. Boise ahead of the Big 12 representative. Go.
Okay. Let's just kind of go in order. Oregon, Ohio State, fine. Texas, I guess, sure. Like if you want to compare their resume to Penn State, that's largely fine. Indiana, kind of the same. A little bit surprised Alabama jumped Miami when Alabama played Mercer, and Miami didn't do anything. So maybe they were really impressed by that Mercer game. I think probably it gets interesting 9, 10, 11. So Georgia only moves up 2 spots, and their win over Tennessee was fairly impressive. However, just 2 weeks ago, they got smoked by Ole Miss. So can you I think there's a bit of a ceiling there. You can't move them that far ahead of Ole Miss, given that Ole Miss just whipped them. Boise being ahead of the Big 12 champion, I think right now is fine because whoever wins the Big 12 is going to add multiple wins over teams that are currently ranked. So I don't really buy the idea that Boise is being set up to get the 4 seed. I think right now it's a recognition that they are 9-1. They have that very close game, like a good performance. Obviously, what would they lose by a touchdown or a field goal at Oregon early in the season? But like if Colorado wins the Big 12, they're going to have to beat most likely BYU and or Arizona State, like multiple ranked teams down the stretch. And the same for BYU, the same for even Arizona State. So I'm not entirely sure I buy the Boise thing, especially because I don't think Boise is going to get to rematch with with UNLV. I think because Colorado State's schedule is so easy that most likely they're going to have to face Colorado State, which is not that impressive of a team to put on their resume. So I don't really think Boise can add to its resume much anymore. A little bit disappointed that Missouri remains ranked, but at the same time, I don't really know who else you're going to put there.
Kansas State.
They just lost it. Like they just kind of got their doors blown off at home by Arizona State too, right?
But how do you put how is K-State out at 7-3, having beaten 2 currently ranked teams, and Illinois is in at 7-3? They don't have a win over a team with a winning record.
I think that's fair. I mean, Illinois has played some close games against some decent teams, but that's like, does the committee care about that? Right? I don't know. Illinois did beat Michigan, which they were ranked at the time, I think. But obviously, like that's one thing. I think the committee does care more than it should about where you ranked at the time. And to me, like, that's silly because it really rewards poor rankings early in the season if you happen to play those teams, right?
Well, totally. But Miller and Moulton have been with you on that. This is why we wouldn't have rankings for the first 6 weeks,
right?
Because they skew this whole poll when the committee starts getting to work. Well, they beat a ranked team in week 2. Well, that team shouldn't have been ranked in week 2. NC State was ranked earlier in the season. They're garbage. I mean, it rewards teams for beating bad teams because prognosticators got it wrong.
Right. Let me ask you this. This week in my simulation, one of the things that came up was A&M in, Texas out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Texas, in a lot of the predictive metrics, is a really good football team, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of that is they played the Gators when the Gators had the third string, Yale kid at quarterback, and they played Mississippi State when State had it was the first game after they lost their starting quarterback. So, and they had blowout wins in those ball games. If you take a look at Texas's resume, though, if they lose to A&M, I mean, we got it didn't end up being a blowout, but for the most part of the game, it played out like a blowout loss at home to Georgia. Their best wins are Vanderbilt and Michigan?
Arkansas?
Okay.
Michigan or Arkansas, right.
I mean, we're talking about 3 teams that are barely bowl eligible. Arkansas, Michigan, Texas. Assuming Arkansas gets there, which I think they will, but that's pretty comparable to what Indiana's going to have. Like, are we going to have an Indiana-Texas off? Because on brand value, clearly it's Indiana. And Indiana has played a very easy schedule, but neither will have beaten a ranked team assuming Indiana loses to Ohio State this weekend, assuming Texas loses A&M. And these are assumptions, but I think it's an interesting scenario to consider here, and it actually pits the big 2 against each other, which not many other scenarios actually do. They're both going to have like 3 or 4 wins over bowl teams, assuming Nebraska manages to beat one of Wisconsin or Iowa down the stretch. Indiana beat Washington. They're a bowl team. Michigan will be a bowl team. UCLA actually still has a chance to be a bowl team, which is kind of crazy. So, I mean, these resumes are pretty similar.
Well, we're wondering, like, right now, Georgia is the doorstop. They're the last at-large, according to the committee. Well, Texas can't get in over Georgia, obviously.
Right.
All right. But let's just say, for whatever reason, Texas or Tennessee, if they're both 10-2.
So they both lost to Georgia in similar fashion, I guess. Tennessee was more competitive in the game for longer, but the margin actually at the end was bigger.
Right.
I feel like Georgia's comeback was sort of like pseudo garbage time, and I think anybody who watched the ball game would understand.
So
that.
Tennessee's loss was to Arkansas.
Right.
Texas's loss will be to A&M. Obviously, it's a better loss, but Texas doesn't have a marquee win. Tennessee will have beaten Alabama.
Yes.
I mean, could it come down to, also a 3-way between Indiana, Texas, and Tennessee? I mean, Miller and Moulton, I think, would drop Texas behind Tennessee.
I don't totally disagree with that. I mean, so would that be 5 from the SEC then?
Well, it comes down to Tennessee versus Indiana.
I mean, yeah, like I had A&M losing the SEC championship game. And I do think that anybody in the Big 2 championship games will be protected. I think there's a real, I'm not going to say mandate, but like, hey, what are we doing here? Got it. Like, these games are worth a heck of a lot of money. We cannot have a disincentive to play these games. So guess what? You're in. Barring something weird, like if like a 4-loss team or something, but that's not going to happen at this point mathematically. I had Bama winning the SEC in that scenario where A&M beats Texas. A&M falls to 7, Ole Miss 9, and Georgia 11. So I had 4 in, and I had Indiana in over Tennessee.
All right.
That's going to depend, though, on this Ohio State game this weekend.
Well, and I think if Ohio State blows their doors off, I think Indiana's out. I really do. How do you see that game, and what's the best way for Indiana to win that game, bud? If you think there is one.
I am a little curious if we are at a critical mass of injuries with Ohio State on the offensive line. They lost their left tackle. They lost their replacement left tackle. And then yesterday in practice, a lot of reports out there that McLaughlin, who was arguably the best center in the country this year, or very up there, he tore his Achilles in practice. I mean, that's basically 3 starters now. And I don't know what they're going to do. They're probably still fine against Indiana, but fine doesn't necessarily mean they blow the doors off Indiana. They had to move Donovan Jackson, who was one of their guards, to left tackle. And he actually played pretty damn well, all things considered, given that he's a guard against Penn State. But I'm concerned there for sure. Indiana gets after it with the defensive line. Like, they're not huge, but they're like really good college players. They may not all be future pros. Maybe a couple of them will be. But if you are having communication issues, if you're having chemistry issues up front because of all that change, I think that's a real problem. I mean, losing a guy on a Tuesday practice, okay, so the replacement dude gets to go in for Wednesday and Thursday practice. Okay. And he played some last year. Like, to be fair, he's not some true freshman that they're throwing in. But I think Indiana can get after them a little bit. Maybe they have to run Will Howard more, I think, which, again, probably suggests a slower pace game, maybe not as much tempo with a new center in there. Indiana's secondary has not faced a lot of good passing games, though, I will say. And that to me is pretty important. I'm trying to think like the best passing game they've seen. It's probably Washington, I guess. And Washington moved the ball on them some and just threw a bunch of red zone interceptions. So there's some chance that Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith are just way too much for Indiana secondary. If you go back and watch the Maryland game, that's what concerns me, I think, because Maryland had guys open a lot, and that was a crazy windy day. It was, I think it was raining as well. They had guys open a bunch, and Maryland does have some good receivers, but they don't have an offensive line. So Indiana got after their behind, and ultimately had like 11 tackles for loss or whatever it was. But I could see Ohio State, if they can block it up enough, having guys wide open as well, just like Maryland did.
Can Indiana block it up enough? Because we go back to the second half of the Michigan-Indiana game when Michigan just said, blank this. Okay, you guys are throwing quick passes to the outside, negating our 2 terrific defensive tackles. So we're going to come at you with 6. We're going to man it up. Your guys aren't better than ours, and we are cutting the head off the snake. And they did it. And everybody watching that game was looking at one another going, well, Ohio State's going to see this. I mean, their DBs are just as good. Okay. Their defensive line as a whole is similar. The 2 tackles may not be as good, but the ends are better. Okay. I mean, don't you think so? And Indiana struggled when Michigan brought more than 4. Can Indiana move the ball on Ohio State?
Do you know who else likes to bring more than 4 traditionally? Is Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator who Ohio State went and got from Oklahoma State 2 years ago. So I think if you give him a chance to do that, certainly I think they can get after them a little bit. Indiana's offensive line, I don't think is great, but they have not faced a whole lot of good defensive lines this season. Is Ohio State comfortable playing a higher scoring game? I think probably here. I agree with you that they're probably not going to allow a million underneath passes. They're probably going to make those contested passes. But you know what? Ohio State tried that against Oregon, and Oregon came out on top. So I'm not entirely sure that they're great in the secondary, but they're better than that Michigan secondary, given that Michigan also did not have Will Johnson in that game, right? So I don't think Indiana can score a whole lot. I bet under 52.5 yesterday. I think it's 52 now. I expect at least one of these offenses to struggle.
Army beats Notre Dame if
Daly, the quarterback, is truly 100% healthy. The Irish continue to have problems on third and like big, medium, third and long on offense. That was kind of a sneaky underplot of that UVA game. So they jump all over UVA. They're playing well. I think Riley Leonard is playing well. However, he was 1 of 9 passing or as far as converting on 3rd and 5+. And this has kind of been a thing. And it's something I think you need to watch for if the Irish make the playoff. When they get behind the sticks, they're still not great at it. And he can scramble around, but if you can force a lot of passing downs and just get some incompletions on early downs because you're loading the box, a couple tackles for loss, this is much easier said than done, clearly. Right? I mean, think about it. Like it's Army's defensive line. We saw how easily Notre Dame handled Navy. So I don't know that Army has that personnel, but Army defensively, they can get after you a little bit. But Daly's got to be fully healthy. He makes that engine go. When he missed the game a couple weeks ago, they did not look good.
No, and they didn't cover, which is the one time I lost on them this year. Okay, we think Army is better up front on both sides of the ball than Navy, but the question is, are they as good at the line of scrimmage as Northern Illinois? Because we think the key for Army winning, they're going to have to do to Notre Dame what Northern Illinois did. Win up front, control the ball, control the clock, shorten the game, keep it low scoring, keep it close, win in the fourth quarter. Can Army on both sides of the ball compete the way Northern Illinois did?
I would be surprised because I do think that, look, Northern Illinois competed. If you're Notre Dame, is there really a look ahead to USC here? I don't know. You smashed USC last year. USC's worse this year. I can't imagine you're looking ahead to that game. I think playing this at a neutral site probably gets your attention too. Like it feels like, hey, this is special, right? I'm just kind of, I don't know. Like I'm not in a huge rush to lay the Irish because of these third down struggles, but I'm a little skeptical that Army can hold up on the line of scrimmage for 4 quarters, to be honest.
Kind of shot do you give Minnesota at home against Penn State?
Decent. I mean, Minnesota's just playing better. Now, I know they lost to Rutgers, so that kind of makes my point wrong. But I would say over the past month, Minnesota has been playing pretty competitive football. I think Brosmer is sneakily one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten. And if Penn State screws around here, they could lose.
This is third best team in the Big Ten against fifth best team, isn't it?
I think you could make an argument for somewhere between like 5th and 7th for Minnesota on a given day. I mean, Iowa at times has looked really good, although Sullivan's out now, so they're probably not as good with McNamara back in the lineup. Minnesota beat USC. Was what, single score at home? So you flip that maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. He's Bud Elliott, 24/7. All right, No Cast, Cover 3 podcast, CBS Sports Family. He's on all day and night on Saturday. I mean, if you can't find Bud, that's a you problem. Follow him on X at Bud Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's, and number 3, Bud Elliott 3. Bud, as always, thanks. Have a great week and weekend.
Enjoy it, guys.
Diamond District Bonus Hour is next. Chris Perkins talking up the Dolphins. Thanks so much for listening. We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever, are steadily adding affiliates, yet we only have a few sponsors. And if that doesn't change, we can't continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or contact Mark on X at that Mark Miller or me at the David Moulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no.
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymade.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymade.com/FTMYERS.
The world famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world famous cigar bar.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Morning, Chris.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm good. Glad we've got some back-to-back wins here, because the consequence of that would the other way. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, it's been a year since you've been able to write and talk about a team with a winning streak. How are you handling it?
I know, it's incredible, right? Who'd have thunk that? I mean, it's incredible. Things change, man. Things change, right? Man.
I mean, you got to go all the way back to what, like right after Thanksgiving last year?
Yeah.
I mean,
everything fell apart at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, after that, though, because they beat the Jets and Dallas back to back after that.
Okay, there you go.
But that was after that is when that was it. That was it. Incredible. Well, they got to win 5 or 7. We'll see what happens.
Hell, just beat the Patriots this week. You can't even. It's hard to in this, but we always look ahead this business, but right now with the Dolphins, you got to be like a player and just take this week to week, because you don't know what you're getting with this team week to week.
Yep, correct. Yeah, no, I never thought it would come to this. I mean, my goodness. But you know what? I mean, you look around at Dallas, and I mean, San Francisco is struggling with injuries, and Jacksonville is an absolute train wreck, obviously. I mean, yeah.
And thankfully, the Jets are too for Dolphin fan.
That's right.
Blow away.
Oh my goodness. Oh man, that is just. That's a. I don't even know what to say about that experiment. You talk about bad ideas. But I guess the smart thing for them is they're going to be at the head of the line for GM and coach, since they've done it mid-season.
Yeah. I don't know how many of them are going to want to go work there.
No, it's not the top guys. You don't want to go to that zoo.
I mean, the same thing with New Orleans. Say not GM, obviously he's staying, but they're in cap hell.
Yep,
so I don't know who takes that job.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of messes to clean up out there. Did you guys watch Tyson and Jake Paul?
I did. I wasted an hour of my life watching
I didn't. You know what it reminded me of, and we're all old enough to remember. Remember when Danny Bonaducci made money doing these celebrity fights, and he was the guy everybody wanted to kick his butt, and yeah.
That's a good call. Here we go.
That is good.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the Diamond District bonus hour on this hump day. Thanks so much for being with us. Go to millerandmoulton.com to download what you missed with Seth Everett and Bud Elliott. But you're here now for Chris Perkins, he of the Sun Sentinel, sun-sentinel.com. Covering and talking about the Dolphins. We joked about it, Chris, during the commercial break. How do you handle a team with a winning streak? You haven't been able to talk about a team with a winning streak in 11 months.
I know I'm trying not to be overconfident, right? You know, right? You got to take this just very slowly, very cautiously. You got to act like you've been there before, right? You hand the ball to the ref and you go back to the sideline, right? No more conga lines and all that kind of stuff. That's how I'm trying to handle it.
Are the Dolphins handling it that way? Are they methodically looking at this the right way? And do you see any confidence in that locker room right now that you didn't see a couple of weeks ago?
You know what's funny is that, what I think I'm going to write today for a column in the Sun Sentinel and what I'm actually crafting right now, Mike McDaniel has seemed to be kind of a tougher guy recently. And, the Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have lost. They're no longer the focal point of the offense, but tight end Durham Smythe lost snaps to Jonnu Smith and to Julian Hill. Raheem Mostert has lost playing time after those fumbles at Indy and Buffalo. Raheem is probably closer to Mike McDaniel than Tua. They go back to the San Francisco days. So, we've seen Mike McDaniel making some tough decisions. And so accordingly, I think this team's attitude has been a little more serious, a little tougher. And so you asked me, have I seen the confidence in the locker room? I think I'm seeing a little more serious of a team, how confident they are. I think they're trying to figure out, are we kind of this ground and pound offense that we've kind of shifted to? Is that real? But I do see more hope, more optimism, and more importantly, I think I'm seeing a more serious attitude. They've always been kind of jokey. Things have come very easily to them. They could always, score with the deep ball. Now they're being more workmanlike, and that's really what I'm seeing more than anything.
All right. The Dolphins were two things at the same time. They were dreadful, obviously, without Tua. But then even when they had Tua, they weren't quite scoring as many points as they needed to score. And then when they did or thought they did, the defense was crumbling and losing games late. Now they're flipping that, okay? And the defense in particular, Chris, in the last 2 weeks, they found a pass rush. And, sometimes we forget a rookie season's a long time. The guy in the first 8 games may not be the same guy in the final 9. Chop Robinson looks like a dude all of a sudden.
He does. And what they are telling us is they're lining Chop out a little bit wider, what they call the wide 9. And so he's outside of the tackle's shoulder, outside of the tackle's outside shoulder, and they tell us what that does is that gives Chop the option of an inside or an outside move, so he can better utilize that quick first step that he has, right? And so we're seeing that, 100%. We are seeing, like, the last, I would say, 3 games probably. We're seeing a more aggressive, more confident Chop, a more effective Chop. Deion Dawkins for Buffalo is a high-quality left tackle, and Chop had some good stuff against him, had a sack, had a near sack, and so we have seen Chop being better, and Anthony Weaver knows how to utilize his defensive pieces. Look, you were, obviously without Chubb and Phillips, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. And a couple of games you were without Zach Sealer, and my hat is off to Anthony Weaver that you worked around your lack of sacks, and now the sacks are starting to increase. Even Emmanuel Ogbah had a sack last week. So Chop is doing well, and I credit Anthony Weaver overall for, as you say, he's kind of manufacturing a pass rush without frequently blitzing.
And the other side of it, Chris, is that no one's running on them. The last 3 games, they're among the leaders in the league in run defense. So it allows them to, if they're going to turn a team one-dimensional, it helps get that pass rush. But I think not only just with the pass rush, with the way they've been stopping the run, Chris, that defense has revamped itself.
Yep, and we talk about the tough decisions that Mike McDaniel has made. David Long Jr., inside linebacker, a team captain, right? Voted a team captain in August, demoted in late October, and cut last week. That's a tough decision, but you put Anthony Walker Jr. in there. And so when you look at, obviously, Zach Sealer and Calais Campbell head that defense, that defensive front. They are very effective against the run. But then you got at linebacker Jordan Brooks, who has played every snap this season still. And now you've got Anthony Walker in there instead of David Long. And Anthony Walker is also better in coverage. Now, we didn't necessarily see that against Brock Bowers. Jordan Poyer, that's another story. We'll talk about that. But, you're seeing a better run defense right up the middle, right? With Sealer and Campbell, and then the two linebackers, Walker and Jordan Brooks. And look, and on the edges, they're setting the edge a little bit better. We talk about Chop's improvement against the pass. He's also improved a little bit against the run. They're not letting guys get as loose. They're not letting that big play go like James Cook did against with Buffalo. So they have definitely tightened up that run defense, and it's helped.
Quick sidebar. As a receiver only, and obviously there's more to being a tight end than being a receiver, but receiver only, he's the biggest weapon in the game at that position right now. I mean, Kelsey's averaging like 8 yards a catch. Kittle, when he can stay in the lineup. I mean, Andrews. I mean, all the guys who have been the standard at that position. I mean, they don't have the quickness and the moves that Brock Bowers has right now. He looks unstoppable.
But he's him, right? As the kids say, right? He's him. I mean, Brock Bowers is a grown man.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the performance he put on, and look, and Jordan Poyer, when we talk about tough decisions that Mike McDaniel has to make, that's another tough decision. We'll see what happens with him. The touchdown that Brock Bowers had, Poyer got caught up in a little bit of traffic, but he ran into it wasn't a pick, but it was almost a pick. Whatever. Jordan Poyer is a veteran, but Brock Bowers took the angle away. I mean, he showed some speed, as you say. He showed a little bit of burst. It's not Tyreek Hill type burst, but for a tight end, that dude, he is a grown man as a rookie. Yeah, Brock Bowers, he's really good.
All right, now the Patriots, and this is just a matter of, I think what you talked about, the seriousness of the room. Take this game seriously and get by with another win, right?
Oh, 100%. And look, this is a team that when you were up there, Jalen Polk, you guys remember the back of his foot was out of bounds in the end zone for that reset, right? Just like 6 inches. I mean, his toe was in, the back of the foot was out. So that ought to get the Dolphins' attention. But, as they try to redefine who they are offensively, they've got to devote all of their focus and attention on the task at hand, and that is this game. I don't even think that the Dolphins could consider this a trap game, right? It's the game before Green Bay. I think last year you probably could have considered it a trap game because you would have been looking ahead to Green Bay. The Patriots. I think this year, I think these guys are actually taking this game very seriously, and so we'll see how it's reflected out there on the field. But I think that you will see a serious, more focused Dolphins team this week.
How's the health of the offensive line? We know they lost Jackson, the right tackle, for the year. I mean, Armstead's managing to suit up every game or thereabouts. I mean, how is the health of the offensive line?
It's kind of shaky, and I say that because Austin Jackson, the right tackle, is out for the season with a knee injury. Kendall Lamb has replaced him. Kendall Lamb was good against the pass last week. They did a nice job against Max Crosby, by the way. He was so against the run. I'd probably give him a letter grade of a C+ against the run. One of my concerns with the Dolphins switching to this new offensive style, more of a run game and a short control passing game, as opposed to that deep passing game, is the physicality that it demands. And one thing that we've seen the last 2 weeks, the Dolphins run game took a dip in production, but Alec Ingold, their Pro Bowl fullback, was not there. When Ingold gets back, I think that helps. But with the physicality comes more use for Devon Achane and Teron Armstead. Armstead didn't practice last week due to a knee injury. So we're already at that stage with Armstead where you got to watch him. If he's doing more run blocking than pass blocking, I wonder over a 7-game stretch how that affects him. Devon Achane missed 6 games last year. He's a smaller guy. He's already had the concussion this year. That's why he wears the Guardian cap. I believe he has exceeded last year's touches already, carries and receptions. But you do have to wonder, this offense now, they entered the season and Tua, Tyreek, and Waddle were the stars. Now Tua, Achane, and Jonnu Smith are the stars. That's a seismic change. But you have to wonder about Achane, his physicality. Can his body deal with another, 100 touches or whatever? So but the offensive line, I worry about Armstead there with that physicality. But otherwise, you've lost one tackle. You got to keep an eye on Armstead. Robert Jones has a knee issue that he's been battling. We don't know if Isaiah Wynn is coming back at left guard. So we're keeping an eye on that offensive line.
How's Tyreek handling not getting the ball as much as he probably would like?
Well, that's a good question. He left without comment out of the locker room last game after scoring a touchdown. So you have to wonder kind of where his head is at. I don't know. Tyreek is a hard guy to read. I don't think that he's liking it. I think he's dealing with it as best he can. But over another 7 games, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to explode or not. I don't know.
Chris Perkins, Sun Sentinel, sun-sentinel.com. Follow him on X at Chris Perk, P-E-R-K. Chris, try to handle, a winning streak. I mean, could be 3 in a row even. Favored to be 3 in a row. Heady ground. We'll try to talk next week, although will you be traveling on Wednesday? We may have to work that out.
Yeah, we're going to have to work that out. I got to check my flight schedule. I'm not sure what time I'm flying.
All
but
right.
We'll work it out now. We'll see if I can handle prosperity or if the Dolphins can.
Chris Perkins of the Sun Sentinel, sun-sentinel.com. Continue to read his work and follow him at Chris Perk, P-E-R-K. Chris, all the best. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Chris Perkins joining us once again on the Diamond District bonus hour. So there. A lot of good insight.
Does a great job.
Yep. That's why we reached out and said, please come on the show.
I just wonder how long Tyreek can handle being a decoy.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. He's a diva wide receiver. It's a good thing they're winning. I'll tell you what. I think he'll handle it till the day they lose. And then look out. Miller and Moulton.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
The world-famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world-famous cigar bar.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Welcome to the bonus hour, brought to you by Jason and Todd at the Diamond District. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when. Final thought or two, a prediction or two, all coming up. You know I'm obsessed with this, right? You know, Hall of Fame lists.
Oh boy, another Hall of Fame list.
Well, this is
Are
one
you
we
back on the
talk.
baseball one?
Nope, we did that already.
Well, David, I know, but I didn't see any other Hall of Fame lists come out between yesterday and today.
Well, one just came out during a commercial break. Okay, all right. So you know me. I mean, I may not know what day of the week it is, Mark, but damn it, I know the 25 semifinalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
That just came out during the commercial break. Wow.
Like I said, during the commercial break. So anyway, just curious, say no. All right, nope, wouldn't get my vote. Not obviously they're competing against each other. You can only vote for so many, but I'm just in which you go, nope, not a Hall of Famer. Eli, Luke Kuechly, Steve Smith, Sr., the Carolina Panthers wide receiver.
Yeah, I'd have to look at numbers I don't know there.
Safety Earl Thomas, Adam Vinatieri.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Defensive end Jared Allen. Top 10 in sacks, I think.
Is he? Okay.
If you're, if that's enough. Linebacker Terrell Suggs. And Miller and Moulton have always loved how you got to weed out, like if there's 4 or 5 pass rushers, we got to line them up in order and then hope the first guy gets in order for the second guy to have a shot. Remember the log jam at wide receiver forever?
For years.
Right. Well, you want a log jam at wide receiver? Torrey Holt, Anquan Bolden, Reggie Wayne.
Anquan Bolden. I think of him as really, really good. I don't think of him as a Hall of Famer, David.
Okay. Antonio Gates, the tight end. James Harrison. We go back to Terrell Suggs, James Harrison. I mean, listen, Harrison's going to get in my opinion. The play in the Super Bowl gets you over the threshold, in my opinion. I mean, it's one of the 5 greatest plays in Super Bowl history. The interception of the 100-yard return at the end of the first half. I mean, and the last 10, 15 yards, because the time has run out. He's got to get in the end zone or else the play's a waste of time. I think Harrison gets in, whether he gets in this year or not. Longtime tackle Willie Anderson, really good player on some average to decent teams. That's it. Does somebody like that get in? Marshall Yanda, same deal, offensive lineman. Jari Evans, an interior offensive lineman. Rodney Harrison.
He's a Hall of Famer, and he's going right in.
Well, hasn't gotten in yet. It's been a while, actually. Rodney hasn't played for a while. He's been doing Sunday nights on NBC for a while. Cornerback Eric Allen. Different era. It was the 90s, basically. Defensive end Robert Mathis. I did not think of him as a Hall of Famer when he played. I thought the guy on the other side was Freeney. Didn't think Mathis was. Obviously, living in Jacksonville now, I've heard an awful lot about this guy. Fred Taylor.
Do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
When he played, I'll be brutally honest. When he played, I didn't. However, do I think he was as good as Edgerrin James? No. And I thought Edge was a Hall of Famer. Without question. You know who I think Fred Taylor was every bit as good as, though? Otis Anderson. And his numbers are as well. I mean, Fred Taylor is over 10,000 yards rushing. Fred Taylor was a breakaway impact back. I mean, is keeping Fred Taylor out of the Hall of Fame one more year? Or is it the Jags winning one more game and getting to the Super Bowl while he was with them instead of losing 2 AFC championship games? Fred Taylor is a very good player. I mean, he had a very good, bordering on great career. It's right there. I'll say this, Mark, and obviously I've heard a lot more about Fred Taylor and his career in the last 2 years than I had spent the last 20 really focusing on. His numbers, and I know the NFL is not a numbers Hall of Fame, they're a lot closer to Canton than you think, than I think most people think. Ricky Waters. See, this is the value of catching passes out of the backfield, too. How much value do you put in it? Because you add his receiving production to his rushing production. And I got to admit, I don't know how he's not.
That's the new back, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the new back. So how do you equate that with what you're going to do going forward? And how will they make that case, which is interesting?
I mean, Fred Taylor and Ricky Waters' numbers, look them up. Hines Ward.
It's not a Hall of Famer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
He's a really good player.
Yeah.
You know, he's not a Hall of Famer.
No, he's not.
And this is a Steelers bias that they put Steelers in. I don't think he deserves to go.
Longtime offensive tackle Richmond Webb. I'll tell you, when he played, people thought he was Hall of Famer. Okay, they did. I mean, he protected Marino's backside, right? I mean, when he played, they thought he was Hall of Famer, and yet he has not gotten significant traction. Guard Steve Wisniewski, this is going back, like Richmond Webb, going back to a different era. I got to say, when he played, I thought he was a Hall of Famer. Thought he was a dominant interior offensive lineman. I thought he was like Alan Faneca.
I've got to defer on most linemen because that's just an area where I don't think I have enough expertise to determine who's a Hall of Famer and who isn't.
And then safety Darren Woodson. There's 25 guys.
I want to know how they whittle this list down to the finalists.
Well, first they got to narrow it down to 15.
Right.
Then they got to get it down to like 6. And then vote. Right. I got to admit, there's a gut feeling I have that Eli doesn't get in his first year. That's the statement that the committee makes, that they pull a baseball statement, that they take that spot and give it to somebody who's been really close. And they're like, let's get this guy in. Eli's going to get in, but let's get this guy in.
You know what's interesting, David, as the Baseball Hall of Fame, when we get the list, it's harder to find 2 guys, 3 guys that you want to put in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Football every year, it's like 10, 12.
At least. Right.
For 5 spots.
Right.
And it seems as if that's going to continue because it seems as if there are more great players out there than ever before.
I mean, I just wonder if they look and they say, listen, let's put James Harrison and Terrell Suggs in. Eli will get in. But let's take care of those 2. I mean, you know, we got to put Adam Vinatieri in, right? I mean, if we're ever going to put a kicker in, we got to put this guy in, right?
I think they could do the same thing with him, though, they do with Eli, that he doesn't get in first crack.
Okay.
Just kicker bias, if you will.
I mean, you know, look at that wide receiver logjam. Torrey Holt, Anquan Bolden, Reggie Wayne.
Holt's been there a while.
I know. I will say he always got a little overshadowed. You had Warner, you had Falk, you had Isaac Bruce. You know, I mean, it's tough. You could be a Hall of Famer, but when you're the 4, I mean, plus the left tackle, Orlando Pace. I mean, Mark, that'd be 5 Hall of Famers from the same offense.
They did it a lot in generations prior. Why wouldn't they do it with the greatest show on turf?
So, anyway.
Well, I know how you're spending your afternoon now.
No, I got it out of my system there. Thank you, because you're right. My afternoon would have been ruined Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when it's all coming up.
Glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no.
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and one replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
It's time for one of the biggest diamond events of the year, right in your backyard. Join Jason and Todd at the Diamond District this weekend, Friday, November 22nd through Sunday the 24th, featuring GIA certified diamonds, diamond stud earrings, hoops, huggies, bracelets, diamond necklaces, anniversary bands, gemstone jewelry, and Rolex watches. Plus, Barry Verragio, founder of Verragio, one of America's top bridal designers, will join the Diamond District with his entire collection.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Amby, and I have to admit, I don't think Marshawn Lynch is a Hall of Famer. 8,000 yards. I don't see it. And his career wasn't cut short because of injury. Well, he's a very good player, but I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think Rivers gets right in. I think Rivers is a fascinating case study.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour. Good, bad, ugly. What's on tap today was the day when. It's all coming up. First, a question from Mark Miller. If you're FAU, would you hire Ray Lewis?
Huh.
Apparently he's interested. Obviously, we all know what Deion's done. By the way, Eddie George is also having success at Tennessee State. We all, obviously the U, South Florida home.
Right. That's why I'd be interested in Ray Lewis, of what he brings to the table with the high school kids.
Now, this isn't interesting. This dates us. Ray Lewis's last game was the Super Bowl. That was 12 years ago. So if you're a high school senior, you were 6 when Ray Lewis played his last game.
I understand that, but you're also recruiting parents. You're recruiting Miami, where he is still beloved.
Oh, he's a legend, and he should be.
I'm more worried about the region than how long ago the Super Bowl was.
Okay.
And I think he brings enough to the table inside the living room with the kids that you have to get there to work. I'd be interested.
I'd do it. See, I don't think you have anything to lose when you're FAU. Hey, if it doesn't work 3 years down the road, okay, go find another one. I mean, you tried Tom Herman after having success with Lane Kiffin. You've gone the traditional route. You went Willie Taggart, didn't work. You thought maybe him coaching at a lower level it would work. It didn't. Then you went Tom Herman. No. Before that, it was Lane Kiffin. How many of the top elite assistant coaches are you going to get? They've hired 2 retread head coaches. Hasn't worked. I mean, can you convince, and remember, Lane stayed 3 years. Whoever the hot shot coordinators are, can you convince them to come to you for 3 years?
Not with what coordinators are getting to stay put where they are. It's lucrative to be a hotshot coordinator in a big-time conference. You're making big money.
And the college football world's changed when Lane came.
You still had to recruit and cheat. Now you pay everybody above board. This is all legal.
I'd do it. I would do it. Worst case scenario, you don't win at football for 3 years. Go and get another one. But if it works,
It's that time again, nearing the end, but not quite there yet. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
I damn near read the good there.
Not there yet. That's okay. I thought today was Tuesday.
That's why I let you know.
You're still ahead of the game.
Today in 1789, New Jersey is the first state to ratify the Bill of Rights. Way to go, New Jersey.
Yeah.
1902. Gio Lefebvre and Henri Destrange create the Tour de France bicycle race.
Huh.
Today in 1928, the Garden in Boston opens. The Canadians beat the Bruins 1-0.
Well, might as well start early.
Good free agent pickup today in 31. Rolls-Royce acquires Bentley Motors. Today in 1942, the NHL abolishes regular season overtime until World War II is over. How do we get them to abolish regular season overtime now?
Could we at least go back to playing hockey, not this 3-on-3 garbage?
Today in 45, the Nuremberg War trials begin. Pele scores his 1,000th goal today in 1969. Walter Payton rushes for an NFL record 275 yards today in 77. At the age of 7, Drew Barrymore hosts Saturday Night Live today in 1982.
Wow.
Today in 84, David, McDonald makes its 50 billionth hamburger.
How did they know?
I don't know. 1997, Jeff Conine, the last original Florida Marlin, is traded to the Kansas City Royals.
They had just won the World Series and the fire sale was underway.
And in 2016, Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th Cup Series championship, tying Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, that one bothered me. I did not want him to be equal to them in championships. Plus, they changed how they did the championships. Of the two, if one of the two was going to get there, I wanted it to be Gordon.
Kennesaw Mountain Landis, Robert F. Kennedy, Dick Smothers, Dwayne Allman, and Fife Dog would have all celebrated birthdays today. President Biden's 82. Joe Walsh is 77. Bo Derek, 68. Mark Gastineau, 68. And rapper Future's 41. What did I miss, David?
The band is on the field. Cal, Stanford, today in 82. Elway still won't talk about it. 42 years later, he has never publicly spoken on it.
Don't you find that to be a little ridiculous?
Yes. Yes, I do. I do. Especially since I believe his dad has passed. Okay, like I get it. It was very painful. Dad was coach. Okay, they didn't go to a bowl. I mean, John Elway never played in a bowl game at Stanford. And that would have made them 6-5, and they would have gone. Okay, but yeah, later on in life, come on now. Yeah. Nope.
Time to see life a little bit differently. Here's Mark Miller with the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
For the good, we go to Austin, Texas, where Katie Ornelas bought a record from a thrift store in Austin. When she opened it, it was not the modern jazz quartet at the Music Inn. She found a recording of vows, prayers, and cheers from a wedding. It was a wedding in 1966. The record was labeled Phil and Donna's Wedding. Thanks to social media, she was able to get the LP back to Donna Schmidt, who was the woman who was on the tape being married. They sold it in a estate sale. It got put in the wrong sleeve. For the bad, we go to the state of Washington, where Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife cited 2 men for trespassing after they illegally harvested almost 180 pounds of mushrooms. Now, they were just regular old mushrooms, chanterelle mushrooms. If you're going to harvest 180 pounds of mushrooms, shouldn't they at least be magic mushrooms? If you're going to get busted by the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, you should probably do it for something more than 180 pounds of chanterelle mushrooms. That's just me. Finally, the ugly, we go to Port Charlotte, where the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office arrested a Port Charlotte man for threatening utility workers with a baseball bat and trimming shears. Utility workers were marking off locations of underground power lines along an easement when the workers performing their tasks were greeted by Lawrence Gallup. He approached them armed with a baseball bat and trimming shears, which begs the question, shouldn't it just be one or the other?
Well, yeah.
I mean, you're kind of helpless with one in each hand. Now, if you drop the shears, you've dropped one of your weapons. By the way, what weapon would you go with? The trimming shears or the baseball bat, David?
Oh, the bat.
You can stab and swing with the shears, just for what it's worth. He threatened the workers. If they didn't leave his property, the workers, fearing for their safety, called 911. Deputies made it to the house and arrested Lawrence. And that is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, Wednesday, November the 20th. And the good, the bad, and the ugly brought to you by the Cape Coral Police Department. Go to capecops.com. Still offering $10,000 sign-on bonus for new officers at capecops.com.
I mean, if you're a cop, I'm curious. Call our buddy, the sergeant, and just say, hey, what would you rather if, you had to disarm us? If we had shears or a bat, which would bother you more? Now, my guess is he would say, well, I have a gun, so, I'm good. But, just...
Which one would you tase us for more quickly? The baseball bat or the shears?
Or would you be curious about somebody with the shears and go, how are they going to do this exactly? Don't you got to lift them up? I don't know. I just think you're a lot more versatile with the bat.
I agree with that. Maybe more dangerous with the shears, more versatile with the bat.
Maybe, but I don't know. I think you got to get a lot closer too.
Kind of that whole Edward Scissorhands effect.
No, I got it.
40-year-old movie reference.
Yeah, well, you might as well. Hey, do you know we have Maction today?
Of course we do.
Day 49, I think it is. All right, here's the games. Only 2. Very disappointing. Buffalo at Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan, a 1-point favorite. Eastern needs a win to be bowl eligible. Not that bowls are clamoring to have Eastern Michigan in the game. And Ohio at Toledo. Ohio's half a game behind Miami of Ohio for first. Toledo is in a two-way tie for fourth, a game back. Ohio at Toledo, 7 o'clock ESPN 2. Toledo, a 1.5-point favorite. The first game, by the way, is on the U. So there.
5 hockey games tonight. Neither the Panthers or Lightning in action. They both played last night. Probably your best game is Vegas at Toronto. Toronto a slight favorite in that one.
8 NBA games tonight. Of the Florida teams, the Magic are in LA to face the Clippers, who have won 5 in a row at home, and yet Orlando's a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Find that interesting. ESPN doubleheader. Chicago at Milwaukee early.
Chicago at Milwaukee?
Yeah.
That's what they're giving us?
I know. Now, New Orleans has got their lineup out, but, the 15-1 Cavs are playing tonight, and we're getting Chicago at Milwaukee. The late game is the Knicks at Phoenix. Okay. Explain this to me. The Sixers are 2-11. They just had a team meeting. Apparently, Tyrese Maxey called out Embiid. Hey.
Love it. I love it. You know I'm a Maxey guy. It's my favorite player in the game right now.
I know.
He called out the star and said, you got to show up on time.
You're late for everything.
Everything.
Yep. And
it wasn't players only. It was players and coaches. Doors shut with everybody, and they had it out, apparently.
Sixers are 2-11. They're at Memphis, and the Sixers are a 2.5-point favorite.
Post-team meeting, David.
I know.
This one's for real.
Apparently so. So we'll see if the team meeting and it works tonight. There's a decent college basketball game.
One.
Yeah. Illinois and Alabama are meeting at 9 o'clock on the SEC network, if you're interested. Bama was number 2 in the country before losing Who'd they lose to? Purdue?
Yes.
Yeah. And
then Purdue turned around and got whacked by Marquette last night.
Right. So Bama and Illinois playing in the CM Newton Classic. I don't even know where that is. Legacy Arena.
That's in Birmingham. That's the Civic Center.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's a dump, by the way. Unless they refurbished it. It was an awful arena. Called many a Birmingham Bulls hockey game there against the Nashville Knights, David.
So there you go. That's what's going on tonight.
So Maction, a little hockey, a little college hoop, a little NBA. It's not NBA Cup night. This regular NBA. Last night was NBA Cup night.
I know.
Did you watch any of the Celtics Cavs and see that floor?
No, I've seen the floor, or unless everybody has a different floor. But I've seen some of the floors. I like the floors. I do. I don't get the NBA Cup. I never know when they're playing. Okay. And so, like, to me, if we're going to have the NBA Cup, have it over like 2 weeks. Then I know, hey, this is the NBA Cup. Instead, like you said, so it was the NBA Cup last night. Tonight, no cup tonight. We going to play cup on Friday?
No cup for you, David.
Miller and Moulton. We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever, are steadily adding affiliates, yet we only have a few sponsors. And if that doesn't change, we can't continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or contact Mark on X at that Mark Miller or me at the David Moulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Core-Tech, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton